Hey folks, welcome back to the Battle Mode channel. I'm your host Battle Mode, also known as Ben, and I thought that I would redo my 4X and 4X-like strategy game tier list because somebody popped up into the Explorminate Discord where I lurk, or well, where I hang out I should say, and informed me that the JPEG that's been going around various Discord channels over the last couple of years since my last video went out has deteriorated from overuse, from being constantly copied to the point where it's barely legible anymore. And I was delighted to hear this because, like, who the hell am I, right? Why would people listen to me? I guess I do put myself out there as a 4X game critic, and I will, cautiously give myself the title of 4X expert. I think I'm an expert in the 4X genre. I think that's fair to say. I've got a lot of experience with the games. However, I am by no means the voice on 4X, okay? I want to make that quite clear. I'm like Marmite. Some people really, really love to listen to what I've got to say, and some people absolutely hate me, and that is fine. I do not mind. I don't really care about what people think about me on the internet. And actually, I really like to hear from people who don't like my opinions, because often I've said stuff in the past that people have really pushed back on, and then I've gone and reappraised my views and tried to be a little bit more objective, and it's turned out that yeah, I was actually wrong. There was a few games, and I'll talk about them here, where I was wrong, and there are also some games as well that I've traditionally been really resistant to, and my opinion of them has gradually kind of raised over the years because I've kind of got rid of certain prejudices, let's say, or I've got over the PTSD of playing them for the first time, I think is a more accurate way of saying it. So anyway, I've got one more disclaimer before I start. I work in the industry. I work for a developer called Stardock. And so there are a bunch of Stardock games on this list, or Stardock published games. And so when those games come up, I will remind you. I have to do that because there's obviously a conflict of interest. But I will tell you the truth about those games. I've got quite a lot of freedom to do that to some extent. And Stardock understand that it doesn't help to have people just lie about stuff, okay? So they need feedback, and so I think it's really important that I'm as honest with you as possible, but just understand that there is that conflict of interest. So you need to make up your mind when I'm talking about any games that I've worked on. There's also one more game that I have that conflict of interest with, and that is Shadow Empire. And I've also worked on this game. My name's on the credits. Done very, very small amounts of work, but the developer and I are really good friends, and we talk all the time. And so you should understand that also with Shadow Empire, it's also the same situation as it is with Stardock. I basically I've worked on the game. As you can see, I'm using Tier Maker like everybody does. It's not the best thing. Look at how Masterpiece is written here. So in order to differentiate this from the last video, I've put in a new tier at the top, which is Masterpiece, and I've reorganized these a little bit better. So I'm going to talk to you about what these tiers mean. I try to rank my games according to the quality of the game's design, but it is impossible for me not to also include my own, preferences. So just understand that you're getting a mix of games design analysis, and you're also getting, some of Battle Mode's opinion as well. It's very difficult for me to disentangle this, and I've tried various systems over the years. I've used number ranking systems and, like the Gimlet system that the CRPG Addict uses, and they're all really cool, but honestly, I think the best way for me to do it, so it doesn't take like 3 hours again, is just to, talk about them, and just to talk about the design and how I feel about them, basically. Masterpieces, these are games that are basically flawless, and they have to have been out for at least 5 or 10 years. I think 10 years is probably the baseline. Nobody should be calling a game a masterpiece if it's only been out for a year. I'm really, really strict about that, because games, you just don't really, even a really, really good games critic or a games analyst or a games designer with a lot of experience will not always be able to see just how good something is until it's been out there and stable for a long, long time. Now, I'm going to break that rule a little bit, so forgive me. But there are some games on here that are clear masterpieces and that might have only been out for like 5 years or so, and they have changed, right? So just take that with a bit of a grain of salt. Anything that's in Masterpiece could probably just be an S tier, and the top end of S tier, probably some of them are going to be they'll be considered masterpieces in the future, in my opinion. But that's just my own personal criteria. It tends to be older games. No, you're not going to see any new games in here. Okay. S tier is games that are, most people would consider to be a masterpiece if you don't have my criteria of it needing to be an older game. And they are mostly flawless. They might have like a few little issues here and there, but it doesn't spoil the enjoyment of the game, and they are very tightly designed. just a word on what I mean by tight, because you'll hear me say this a lot. A tight games design is one where all of the game mechanics and systems touch one another as much as possible. So making a decision in a game on one system will have knock-on effects to the rest of the systems. So I'm going to spoil Master of Orion, yeah, but Master of Orion is the quintessential tight games design. There's nothing in this game that doesn't need to be there, and so everything has a gameplay effect, and it is one of the tightest games ever made. Although, Remnants of the Precursors made it even better. But so that's an example of a tight game. An example of a loose game in the same genre would be Stardock's Galactic Civilizations 4. The Galactic Civilizations 4 has elements of tightness in its design, but overall it's quite a loose design. And what that means is it's more sandbox-like. You can set this game up to play it in all sorts of different ways. Whereas when you play Master of Orion, you've really got a very specified thing that you need to do in order to win. That's a very loose way of talking about this, but if you understand these two games, that might help you a little bit. I'll talk about it more as we go. Okay, so S-tier games tend to be tighter and just relatively flawless. A-tier games are excellent games. These are games that most people would think are just the best games, but they've got a few flaws here and there that stop it from being S-tier. B-tier are very good games. They've got some flaws, or they're kind of mediocre games with just really great ideas. Sometimes you can have a game that's sort of just averagely designed, or it's got a load of jank, but because it's got such great ideas in it, it just elevates it in the fun factor up to a higher level. So you might get some of those in B2, or it's just kind of just good. C is a good game, but it's got problems. Okay, C's got a decent game. It's got problems, and then D are just basically not a good game. C's mediocre, basically. And I mean that in the original sense of the word. We have to be a little bit careful in the modern era, because we live in a world and, on social media, where we are increasingly encouraged to think about things in terms of extremes. And I want us to get away from that. It's really damaging for society and for critique. So it's perfectly fine to like a mediocre game, okay? I've got loads of mediocre games that I've got hundreds of hours of play in. For example, a game out of this genre, which is Metal Gear Solid 5, that is a mediocre game in terms of its games design. It's all over the place, but it's so fun in the areas where it does work that that I've just played it over and over and over. So some games can be mediocre, but they can still be great fun. Okay, they often, like for example with Metal Gear Solid 5, it's got such a load of sloppy, it's a sloppy games design. And it's just kind of broken and unfinished, but it's still great fun. So that's a C tier game. Okay. And a D tier game is everything else, basically. I don't really play bad games, so these will be games that some people will really like, but they're either not for me, or they've got a lot of problems to the point where I find them unplayable. Okay. So I don't really bother with bad games anymore. So for games in D tier, I won't play it. I've also got two curious tiers at the bottom, and they need some explanation. Haven't played enough. Now, I hear you ask, why would you have a tier for games you've not played? Well, honestly, the reason is, one, it makes me think, oh, I need to play that. So it's a selfish thing. Also, it gives you the opportunity to jump into the comments and say, hey, I've actually played that game. I think you should play it. Here's why. And it gives people who watch the video something, some extra context, because okay, this is a battle mode show today, but it's not just about me, okay? And I want the community to be able to talk about these decisions and, come up with ideas of games that I haven't played. Maybe you can give me some more context for them. Finally, we've got I'm not playing that. Now, this is another curious tier. This is a tier for basically if I've given up on a game series because it's just proven itself to be crap and I don't see any change in the direction of the games, then or there's a developer that I really don't like and they just constantly make games that I don't like, then I'm just going to put them in here. This is not good for a critic, by the way. This is an admission of being a human being with emotions and not very much time for playing bad games. And so I invite you to berate me all you like when you see your favorite game thrown into I'm not playing that. By the way, I forgot to put Civ 7 in here, and in fact, let me do that now. Okay, there we go. I've added Civ 7 in. That means I've now got 100 4X games to examine, and that is going to be a long job. So I'm going to try to go through this relatively quickly. Okay, 10 minutes in and we've not even looked at any games yet. It's always the way with battle mode. I like talking. That's the problem. Okay, let's start. So, Armageddon Empires. So this is a 4X, a post-apocalyptic 4X board game style game by Cryptic Comet, a now defunct Cryptic Comet, developer named Vic Davis, exceptionally good games designer, and who turned out to be formidably good at video game AI. His games have got really good game AI, considering how complex the games are. Armageddon Empires has a kind of points-based card system for picking armies, and it has loads of really cool stuff. So you pick an army, there's 4 different factions, they're all very thematic, they've got loads of different unit types. It's got kind of air warfare, you can fire missiles at enemies. It's got different types of bases. There's stealth mechanics, so sneaking around is really important. Army sizes, some larger armies are more easily detected. Small, but they're obviously more powerful. Smaller armies are better able to avoid detection, so you can use real military tactics in this game. Armageddon Empires has so much depth that it puts most of the other games on this list to shame. It is an S tier game, and no mistake. The only problem with this game, it's not a masterpiece. And the reason why it's not a masterpiece is because it's got a couple of little issues. One is some people struggle to play it because it was made in Adobe Director, of all things. And so some people just struggle to get it working on their computer. But if you can get this game working, and you can get it working so the dice rolling is quite quick, because some people struggle. I don't know why certain computers don't seem to be able to use the accelerator patch that came out for it in order to make the dice rolling faster, because it's got this all of the dice rolled in the game are coin flips, basically 50-50. And sometimes it rolls a lot of dice. And it's a really fascinating system. It's really good, actually. But some people found it a little frustrating. I think that this is close to masterpiece, though. This has got an amazing game AI as well. The game AI knows how to use all of the tools. It will use weird strategies. Like, there's one strategy with one of the factions, the Xenopods, where you kind of lay these eggs, and then the eggs can turn into new cards. And it's like a way of getting some of the more powerful units in the game, but by paying very little. But there's a random element. The game AI knows how to set that up so that it works in an efficient way. It also knows how to bombard your cities from long range using missiles. So it will use the in-game crafting system, because it's got crafting as well. It will use the in-game crafting system to craft nuclear weapons and like long-range cruise missile type things, and will just keep hitting your HQ until you die, until you figure out how to deal with it. It plays to win. It's superb. There are very few games with a game AI as good as Armageddon Empires, and yet it's still possible for the player to win quite easily because of the random generation of the map. So it's a bit like Galciv. It's kind of one of those games where you need to play it quite a lot to really know how to get the most out of it, and that's one of its only really real flaws. But I think Armageddon Empires is bordering on masterpiece. I'm just going to put it in S tier just because of the old engine, and that really is a real big off-putter for some people. But this is a magnificent game. It's available on Steam, unlike Solium Infernum, which you can't buy anymore. Okay, Aggressors Ancient Rome. This was the first game from Cube Games, I think. This is a historical 4X crossed with the grand strategy game. You can play it like a classic 4X, where you just start out with a settler and you explore either the real world map, or you can play procedurally generated maps, and it plays like the early era of civilization, except it's far more detailed. It's got an incredibly detailed combat system. It has morale, it has supply. The AI is really, really good. I think that this is a solid B tier game. I think that the only reason why I probably wouldn't put it into a higher tier is, one, that I didn't quite play it enough to be able to tell you how solid it is. What I will tell you is the AI surprised me a few times. Let's say that you're on a peninsula, right? And I was on a peninsula and I was attacking into this peninsula, and there was a small band between the mountains and the sea where I was moving through. The AI sent a ship and did a naval landing and cut off my supply by sitting on that hex. I've never seen a game AI that can do naval landings. Yeah, it just doesn't. Most games just can't do it. And Pavel from Cube Games, he knows how to do that. He's just that guy's great, man. And this game was really, really good. So that was my one experience with Aggressors, where I was like, whoa, this game AI is brutal. And it's got loads of scenarios as well, so you can play it almost like a grand strategy game. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more when I talk about Imperiums, because the follow-up Imperiums is an even better game. It's far better, actually. And so I'm going to put this in B tier. Okay, Arcane Games, the artist formerly known as Chris Park. AI War and AI War 2. These are good games, man. I'm going to put AI War in A tier, and I'm going to put AI War 2 in A tier higher up. So AI War was the first game. It was all, it's an older game. All of Arcane Games are weird. That's their thing. They make weird games. They are very, very brave with the game's design. Chris McGilligan Park is incredibly clever. The only problem I've got with AI War is it's kind of, there's just a lot going on. It's really, really complex. It's an okay, let me tell you what it is. It's an RTS 4X game, a little bit like something like Sins of a Solar Empire, but actually in the way it plays more like Sorcerer King, which is a fantasy 4X. But this is an asymmetric game. You start with a single planet, and you're fighting against an AI that has conquered the galaxy, pretty much. And you've got to try to take over the enemy systems in such a way that you do not wake up the AI too quickly, because if you wake it up too quickly, it will just crush you with a massive, massive force. But the storyline is that the AI is busy with an intergalactic invasion or something, so it doesn't have the resources really to be able to deal with you. But if you make it a problem for the AI, it will suddenly divert all the resources to you and wreck you. This has, again, like Armageddon Empires, even more so though, this has got some of the best game AI I've ever seen. It's incredibly well programmed. It's just really clever. This game, even if you're an expert at AI War, it will still surprise you with its ability to trick you by attacking certain areas, draw your forces, and then it will just hit you like a ton of bricks from somewhere else. There is so many different units in it. I can't really talk about this game too much. You should just go and play it. AI War is, I think some people would say it's an S tier game. I don't. The War and Peace tooltips really bug me. I don't know why. It's just, for me, tooltips need to be small and snappy. These things will give you like a massive, massive paragraph, dozens of paragraphs full of information that you could probably need if you're playing the game seriously. But for me, it just turns into like some sort of number one games design crap. But honestly, it's really good. AI War 2 did some stuff that I didn't like. There's some immersion breaking stuff, like they made fleet carriers so they were indestructible. I didn't like that. I thought AI War 1 was better in that respect. They may have turned that off though as an option. One thing I love about Arcane is if enough people complain about stuff, they will add in options to kind of make the game more palatable for people who don't like the changes they've made, and I really appreciate that. Alliance of the Forsaken Sons. I think this is Vaporware now, I think. So this is Cat Hawk Games, I think, or guys called Texas Hawk. I think it was Cat Hawk Games. But this was originally an indie game. Then it got funded by someone. Then that got dropped, and then they went with Hooded Hawk and got funding for that. And then it wasn't finished, and then they got dropped by Hooded Hawk. I really like the developer. He's a really nice guy. I feel really bad for him what's happened, but I haven't seen this be finished. And the last time I played it, it was promising. So it's a kind of grand strategy game as much as a 4X. It's a little bit like it's a little bit like Stellar Monarch, as we'll see later. But unlike Stellar Monarch, it's not finished. And it was a really good idea. This is kind of, imagine if you had the sort of political intrigue of Dune as the main driving force behind a 4X game. That's the best way I can describe it. It was very unusual. I hope he finishes it, because it deserves to be finished, but it's not looking good, I'll be honest. In fact, I'm going to put it in there with Dominus Galaxia. It's another 4X game that's been in development for years, and the developer sort of blows hot and cold on it. Sometimes he comes back and picks it up for a bit and then just stops it again. And I know what it's like to get burnt out on projects, by the way, so I've got sympathy for people. But yeah, Dominus Galaxia is kind of a Master of Orion style game that is very similar in that respect. It's probably never going to be finished, but I hope Jeff finishes this one. Okay, here's the one that always triggers a lot of people. I'll just say it outright. I like Age of Wonders 1 a lot, and that's a solid B tier game. I think Age of Wonders Shadow Magic, I've played enough to be able to tell you that I think it's also a solid B tier game. I think it's probably a better game than Age of Wonders 1, but I like Age of Wonders 1 more personally. But these are good games. These are Master of Magic, Fantasy 4X. There's a real Heroes of Might and Magic element to them in some respects. Is that true? They've got some elements of Warlords in them, if you remember Warlords. And Warlords is certainly an inspiration for Heroes, the original Heroes of Might and Magic games. So I think they've got some shared lineage in that respect. But Age of Wonders came out in the sort of late 90s. Very beautifully produced games. Triumph used to make really good games. Okay, so these games are I think these games are great. Buy this, man, because this one's really good. And Age of Wonders Shadow Magic this is Age of Wonders 2 Shadow Magic. It's a classic for a reason. It's very, very well regarded by the people who like these games. Then they did Age of Wonders 3. This is the one that was partly funded by the guy who did Minecraft. I think Age of Wonders 3 is decent. It's a good game. It's got very good tactical combat, but they really leaned into the tactical combat more. And this is where they started sanding the edges off the game's design. They Triumph want to get more people playing their games, and that always comes at the expense of the enjoyment for people who are veterans of the genre. And what that means is they've done a lot of stuff like, I'll give you an example. In Master of Magic, if your enemy brings a flying unit to a battle and you've got nothing to shoot that down, like arrows, or you've not got the web spell so you can web it and bring it to the ground so your ground melee troops can destroy it, or you've not got a spell, you're done. You can't win that battle. You will lose the battle because the flying unit will kill you. Okay, you can't hit it back. That is good games design, because even though it's a little tricky for beginners, the first time that happens to you, you go, well, most intelligent humans would go, oh, I see. I can't win that battle unless I bring an archer. Therefore, my build where I just spam out the same melee thing isn't going to work, is it? And then the light bulb goes on, and they go, okay, well, next time I need to bring some archers if I'm fighting this type of enemy. Nope, they don't want that anymore. That's too hard for people. So what they've done is they've just removed flying units completely. Sure, you've got units that look like they fly, but they don't really. They all land, and you can just fight them however you want. So Age of Wonders 3 begun the enshittification of Age of Wonders, but it's still a good game. Okay, it's within the very sort of lame, constrained, very easy number one games design kind of system that they've created, where it's just like, this one's fire damage, this one's got fire resistance, so fire damage doesn't do well against fire resistance, this one's got poison damage, and this, fire does burning. What's burning? Burning's basically poison except fire flavored. It's just boring. It's really boring games design. I really don't like it. The combat though is still, even within that weak system with all the edges sanded off, it's still quite fun. Then they did Age of Wonders Planetfall, which was a sci-fi version. I think this is a better game. This game was really good because they made it so that combat was more interesting, because they have a modding system so that you can customize your units with these mods that come from various resources that you find. So you have this special resource and you can turn that into these modifications for units. That gave this game really compelling gameplay, because you can then build your smaller forces, and the battles are a little bit smaller. You can build your smaller forces to really lean into very, very interesting unit synergy pairings, or groups of units that work well together. I think Age of Wonders Planetfall had some problems though. I still can't finish games of Age of Wonders. I don't know why. These games I can finish. I really like these, but these ones here, I get bored halfway through. The strategic side of the game just isn't exciting enough. Planetfall was almost like a skunk works for Age of Wonders 4, and unfortunately all the lessons that they learned from Planetfall, they just threw into the bin and did something totally new for this game, which is so popular. Everyone loves this game, but I don't. I think this has got I think it's got great elements. Okay, so for example, I'll give Triumph credit. They made a diplomacy system that is linked to... they've made a territorial region acquisition system that is linked to diplomacy. That's brilliant. I think that's really good. I wish they had that. That was in Age of Wonders Planetfall, I think, as well. But it's better in Age of Wonders 4. If they put that back into Age of Wonders the older Age of Wonders games with their much more exciting, lethal combat systems, that would be brilliant. But the problem is they've reduced the lethality of everything in combat now, so they've just increased the hit points on everything, even basic spearmen. So your early battles, where you're just fighting with the most basic units, drag on and on because by the developers' own admissions, and I've had it from the horse's mouth, they don't want anybody from playing the game and then making a mistake and then feeling, oh, okay, I made a mistake, therefore I'm just going to refund the game. They don't trust their players to be intelligent enough to be able to lose a few times and learn from their mistakes. So instead of having a unit, a spearman unit, okay, you put it in the wrong position, now it's been beaten and you lose the battle. They've already got a system where you can save scum, like a built-in save scumming system, where if you lose a battle, you can just fight it again, right? So that's not enough, apparently. So what they did is they then increased the hit points of everything massively. So everything's this massive bag of hit points, even basic spearmen. So you have to chew through them, but in the early battles, it's so boring. I cannot get past the early game of Age of Wonders 4. It's just the whole number one games design is really bad. Fire damage, shadow damage, fire resistance, shadow resistance. There's very little mechanical interactions between game systems that isn't just +1 this, -2 that. It's really, really boring. There are certain things you can do, like morale plays, which are more interesting, but morale doesn't work in an interesting way. It's not lethal. So morale just makes it so stuff doesn't hit as much. It's just really boring. Like, if you could rout the enemy's army off the map and cast fear spells and beat them in combat so badly that they all started running, that would be fast. That would be great, because it's really dangerous, and that then becomes a really scary play to play against. Nope. In Age of Wonders, with the way Triumph does games design now, no, all it does is it just makes it so they don't hit as often. It's so crap. I think this is a really overrated game. It's made for casual players. It's replaced meaningful games design with surface level aesthetics and spellbooks full of basically the same stuff. It feels like a dress-up doll game to me rather than a serious strategy game. And I'm being mean, but that's the way it is. It doesn't mean that I don't have fun with it. Sometimes I'll play it and I'll play for a few hours and I can get past that early game, that early stage of the game, and I'll think, okay, I've actually got past this now. Now there's more interesting spells coming in, and then I look at the spell options and I just tend to pick the same books because I'm like, this is just crap. So yeah, I don't like this game, but I'm going to put it like, it's not D tier, because what they've created in this system is good. It's got a lot of, within this limited, lame, easy, safe, crap games design system they've made for the combat, it's actually still pretty good, if you follow me. So it's kind of, it's the king of the crap game systems. It's very well executed within that limited, safe, easy, unadventurous system that they've created. The strategic gameplay is actually a lot better than the other Age of Wonders games in this, but the AI is not very good. That's another problem with this game. It's got really bad AI. All right. So yeah, that's enough dunking on a Triumph. I like the guys from Triumph as well, man. Like, every time I've ever spoken to them, most of them, they're always pretty cool, man. They're obviously nice people. I think that Age of Wonders 4 is becoming bloated with more and more DLC. Some of the DLC is pretty good, actually. The giant DLC I really liked. That looked cool. They know how to sell a fantasy. They just don't have the game mechanics to be able to back up. They can't. Their fantasy is cashing checks. The game mechanics can't back. It's just bad. Okay, Aura, History Untold. This is a game that was it's been partly developed by Stardock. It was not Oxide Games, but Stardock have published, been helping out with the marketing of it. It's actually published by Microsoft and Xbox Studios. So I've done some promotional work for this game. So you need to understand that, again, I've got a conflict of interest on this one, guys. But I'll be honest with you, Aura is a solid C tier game. I think it's better than Age of Wonders. Yeah, it's kind of around there. The thing is about Aura is it just didn't get a good start, and there's various reasons for that. But this game did not get a good start for a game that was, that could have been as good as this. It just didn't get a good start, and so it never really got the following it needed. it's been patched in recent times and it's way better now. Like before, when it launched, Aura was D tier. It wasn't good, I'll be honest. But I think it's like I've played Aura quite a lot now, and I actually like this game. It's a Civilization style game, but it plays completely differently because it's got a resource economy. It's got a real resource economy. And when that works, which is in most of the game, it's compelling gameplay if you're that kind of autistic person like me who really enjoys supply chain management stuff. So if you like games like, what do you call it, Anno, it's not quite like Anno. It doesn't quite play like that. Anno's more of an RTS in that respect. This is very much a 4X, but it's got Anno style supply chain logistics gameplay, and it's very, very good in that respect. The problem is, what stops Aura being a better game is that it really tails off in the end game. And I'll be honest, I struggle to finish games of Aura because it just gets really bogged down in the end game. So it's one of those games where the bones of a really good game are there. It just doesn't quite do it for me in terms of, it's just not a particularly tight game at the end. I don't know what can be done with this. I haven't analysed the games design on it that heavily myself, but I think people have slept. The thing is, this is a better game than people make out. Like if you go and look at the reviews aren't great, but I think a lot of people played it when it first released and were very disappointed, and that was understandable. But where the game is at now is way better than it was, and I think that it's kind of when I'm enjoying Aura, which is like for the first 400 turns or so, this is a superb game, and it's actually a superb game. The problem is that the way that it gets bogged down in the ending really is quite disappointing. I'm going to put it in low B tier because I think it is really good fun. But yeah, I'm a little bit biased on this, but I think honestly that Aura is a slept on game. It's better than people make, that a lot of people make out, but it does have some problems that need sorting out, and I don't know how you can do that with this. Astro Protocol. This is a new game, and it's a short-paced space 4X game. Very puzzle. It's like very tight game, so it's almost like a puzzle game. And I'm not going to say that because that'll put people off playing. It's not a puzzle game, but it on the sort of puzzle or sandbox spectrum. It's closer to puzzle. Okay, so you've got there's plenty of headspace within which to approach your conquest of a game or of a map, but it quickly narrows down what you've got to do in order to win, if you follow me. So the game's headspace becomes lower and lower towards the end of the game, and like it does with something like Master of Orion. I think this is a very tight game. I've not played it a whole lot, but I've played it enough to be able to rate it. This is an A tier game. This is really good. Like the designer hangs out at Explornate, so hello. And I think that, oh, by the way, this has also got a game AI that's being worked on by Zilmi, the popular, incredibly talented modder. He's also known as Isle. Isle or Zilmi. He did game AIs for Pandora. He did game AIs for, he helped with the AI for Gladius, and therefore some of his code will still likely be in Zephon. And he's done a really crazy game AI for Remnants and the Precursors. The Zilmi mod on Remnants of the Precursors is so difficult. It just plays to win, and it will crush you unless you know how to play optimally. And also he did a really good game AI for XCOM as well. UFO, Enemy Unknown, or XCOM UFO Defense if you're from the United States. He's done a really, really solid game AI for Open XCOM. So he's very, very talented, and he's been helping the AI on this game. So this game's going to have crazy strong AI. I like Astro Protocol. I need to play it more, but I was quite surprised by this because I look at it and it just looked like any other little indie project, and I'm kind of done with a lot of those, to be honest, because they just, most of them are just using Unity store assets, and slop existed long before AI. I'm going to tell you that. Okay, cell phone gaming was really the first slop that we had. Well, it wasn't the first, but it was that was when it really intensified. Game AI, AI driven stuff is just it's just a catalyst for slop. It's not the slop. So and there's a lot of these kind of games that are just slop. This is not slop. This is great. I think this is an A tier game, but I may change that as I play it more, as I find more problems. But I feel that this is a really tight games design, and I think it's going to get better. Okay, folks, we're on to the Sid Meier's Civilization games. So First off, let's start with Beyond Earth. Beyond Earth is a C tier game, I'd say. It was a sci-fi, kind of a sci-fi reskin of Civilization 5. I think that's a bit of that's an unfair way of putting it. It's got its own unique mechanics. I actually enjoyed this game a lot more than other people, but that was because I went into it not expecting it to be like Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. I think because it had characters that it looked like it was a character focused game like Smack is, but it's not. And because of that, then it really fell flat because people were expecting it to be some sort of Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri remake, and it wasn't. It didn't really play anything like it. But if you take it at its own merits, particularly with the DLC that came out, Rising Tides, I think it was, Rising Tides, well, whatever the DLC was called, that made this game a lot better. And I think, yeah, I'd rather play this than Age of Wonders 4 by a long stretch. I think this is a C tier game. It's a good game. It's just not, it's not brilliant. It didn't stand out quite enough to be a particularly great game. But if you see this on sale and you like Civ 5's gameplay and you want to play, a game that's like that but with its own flavour and unique spin, go and play that. That's not a bad game. I don't think it's a bad game anyway. Civ 3 is an excellent game. That's really good. I think Civ 3, it's showing its age now a little bit, and just like Alpha Centauri, which came out around the same kind of time, both with Brian Reynolds, I think. Civ 3's only issue, really, if you see it as an issue, is that it has that kind of Master of Magic problem where you are encouraged to fill every part of the landmass with cities. So people call it the city spam problem. If you like city management, Civilization 3 is really going to float your boat because there's loads of it. I liked this game a lot. This was the first game I remember modding. I remember modding some kind of like SAS style paratroopers or something into it, just for fun when I was a young man. But this is a really good game, and I think it's still worth playing today. You can buy it for dirt cheap. It's a really solid Civilization game. Civilization 4 though is S tier. This is Soren Johnson. This is a really good game, and again, it's a historical 4X. What it did over the previous Civ games was it added sort of more interesting mechanics into it, and it limited the game in certain ways. So it's got, a system. I forget which system it is now. Is it corruption or is it... anyway, it limits the amount of cities you can feasibly manage. It's not like, it doesn't feel like an arbitrary limit. But Civilization 4 was just solid. It's such a solid game. The reason why people still play this heavily, one of the reasons, is because it was built with Python, and that makes it was deliberately built with the ability to mod it. Soren Johnson fought really hard with Firaxis to release the modding tools for Civilization 4, and thank God he did that. Like, thank you so much, Soren, because doing that means that there's so many mods for this game. There's like a great Dune mod, Frank Herbert's Dune. There's Caveman to Cosmos, which is just Civ 4 except with just 10 times as much content. If you want to play a massive bloated game with tons of content that lasts forever. There's Derek Paxton's excellent Fall from Heaven series, and Fall from Heaven 2 is an S tier game as well. It's a fantasy 4X. It was the probably a precursor for the Elemental games in some respect. This is a brilliant game. So Civilization 4, it's almost a masterpiece. It's not quite a masterpiece. The reason why it's not a masterpiece, by the way, is because the game struggles to do naval landings, as always. It's so easy to cheese the AI. So, it's just got that 4X problem of, the AI just can't quite manage all of the gameplay. However, the game AI in this game is really, really, really good compared to most 4X. You will not be disappointed with it mostly, unless you play it really hardcore. Then you start seeing some of its limitations. Civilization 4 is the best Civ game, in my opinion. They went downhill from here. Civ 5 is a good game, though. This is where they started doing the one turn per tile thing. I think I ranked this lower before, but I actually think that Civ 5's a good game. This was John Schaefer when John Schaefer was still making games, and he did a really, really good job of this. And I think that Civ 5, yeah, it's a good game. It uses the 1 unit per tile system, so often you've got so many armies on the map that they're starting to get congested and there's traffic jams. That has its own gameplay though, and this game's also been quite heavily modded. Lots of AI mods for it to make the game AI better. This was the first game though where Firaxis decided that they didn't want the game to win. So unless you try to lose, you can't, I mean, obviously you can lose, but the game AI is programmed to look like it's playing the game more than it is actually trying to win the game hardcore. Now, that doesn't mean to say that it doesn't win on the higher difficulties, but this situation only got worse and worse with Civ 6. I'm putting Civ 6 in, I'm not playing that, and I'm putting Civ 7 in, I'm not playing that. The only reason I bought Civ 6 was because it had Sean Bean doing the voice, and I love Sean Bean. He's my favourite. Such a great guy, such a fantastic actor, and so funny with that Sheffield accent. But I won't play this game. I tried it for about an hour and I just turned it off in disgust, and I was like, is this what Civs have become? Ugh. And this one's better than this one. Civ 7, I'm just not even buying it. So that's going to tell you what I feel about these games. I might try Civ 6 again, because I've got friends who play this, who like this one, who think it's really good, but I was not convinced. I didn't love Civ 5. Whenever I play Civ 5 now, I'm like, why don't I just play Civ 4? Like, I could be having the best time ever playing Civ by playing Civ 4. So why would I play? Like, this one's different though. Like, these 2 games are really worth owning because they are really different. But do yourself a favor, guys. Pass on Civ 6 and Civ 7. Civ 7 is just, it's like Firaxis just don't have the talent anymore. I just don't think they have. Either that or they gave it to a junior team who do not know what they're doing. Okay, and so we have our first masterpiece. But Battle Mode, what do you mean Conquest of Elysium 5 is a masterpiece? It's only been out for about 5 years, and sometimes the enemy will just walk into your cities, and if you've not put any guards in, then they take them, and that's frustrating, and I have to mod it out because I'm a noob casual. No, Conquest of Elysium 5 is a masterpiece. This Conquest of Elysium 4, if I'd have put this on this list, would have been like A tier, and the reason why it wouldn't be B tier, any higher, it may have even been high B tier, was because it wasn't tight enough. It just kind of had a lot of loose ends, and there was stuff in it that wasn't quite, didn't quite fit the fantasy of what you're doing. Conquest of Elysium 5 made so many small changes to the game and extra little additions that it turned it from a B tier game or an A tier game into a masterpiece. This is not quite a 4X game. This is a 4X-ish game, I'd say. It's as much like a kind of classic roguelike as it is a 4X game. You start, you pick a character class, the game generates the map of Elysium and different planes of existence that go along with Elysium, which you cannot see at the start of the game. You have to explore the map, take over settlements, and fight the denizens of Elysium, which range from deer, rabid deer, and wolves, and giant moose in the forests, and snakes, all the way up to things like minotaurs. You'll find gorgons, you'll find basilisks, cockatrices. There's all these like classic fantasy trope monsters, dragons. There you'll find castles with a dragon who's stolen a princess. It's got all the kind of like the Grimm's fairy tale stuff in there. It's so good, and you will also fight against AI players who are also trying to win the game. So not only is it a game where you're fighting against the environment, and that can be very difficult actually, but it also you have to worry about other players as well, who are also trying to conquer Elysium. It's as much an adventure game as it is a strategy game, but it is an incredibly versatile game because the game options are so extensive. This is a bit like Galciv 5 as well. Galciv 4, sorry. The game options are so extensive that you can set this game up to play in many different ways. If you want a really competitive game, it's not suited, I don't think, to competitive multiplayer, but people do play it like that and have a lot of fun. And there's some people who swear it's a great competitive multiplayer game, but it's never going to be a balanced multiplayer game, okay, guys? So if you're looking at this and wondering, is Conquest of Elysium 5 going to be a super balanced multiplayer game that I can play with my friends, and it's going to be all fair and we'll decide who's the better player? No. You have to be willing to have bad starts. Somebody's going to get a good start, someone's going to get a bad start, and that's where your diplomacy comes in, right? I would have thought. So if you've got a gaming group that understands that, this is going to be a great competitive multiplayer game, but it is a superb co-op game. This is like a superb co-op adventure strategy, just fun game for you to play with your buddies. I've got a lot of hours in this playing with my friends, and I think this is it's a masterpiece. Illwinter Games Design make the best games. There is no denying it. They are absolute masters of their craft, but they've been working on this series since 1994. The first version of this game came out on the Atari Falcon. Can you remember that one? Because I do. I really wanted a Falcon. I had an Atari ST in the late 80s, so the Falcon was like, wow, this is some high-tech stuff. Well, Ewan from Illwinter had one anyway, and so he went and made a game. But this series has just gone from strength to strength. Conquest of Elysium 4 was a good game, but Conquest of Elysium 5 is a masterpiece. And I say that with no hesitation. You do not need to mod this game. There's nothing wrong with this game. It is perfectly balanced, perfectly designed, because every time you play it, you're going to get something completely new. I've got thousands of hours in this series, and I'm still finding new stuff all the time that I've never seen. New units that I've never come across, parts of the planes that I've never been to before where I find something surprising, some new combination of spells. I've not even begun to talk about this game, but I've done many videos on Conquest of Elysium 5. Eventually, I'm going to do a review of it. I've done a review for Explorminate, if you want to go and read that at explorminate.com or explorminate.net or whatever it is now. But yeah, explorminate.net, I think it is. So you can read a written review I did, but I'm going to do a video review of this. This is my favourite game, along with Shadow Empire. This and Shadow Empire and Dominions are my favourite games. Okay. Sid Meier's Colonization. Okay, so we did have another Sid Meier's game here. Sid Meier's Colonization I haven't played enough to really rate, but I've looked at the game's design. As you'll see when we come to Machiavelli, this game was very, very influential. It's a very old game. It's I think it'd be a little bit tricky to remake this game in the current political climate where, talking about colonization and empire building and stuff can be a little bit, a little bit controversial for certain snowflakey type people. But there's nothing nasty about this game really. It's just a historical trading 4X game. I like this game. I think it's really good, but I haven't really played it enough to be able to rank it. But I suspect it's like here. I remember I think the game's design on this is like S tier, but I can't say that for certain because I've just not played it enough. I don't think I've ever finished a full game of Colonization, the original, but it is a really what I played of it, I just thought was great. Deity Empires. Okay, so Deity Empires is an unfinished game. I don't know if this is ever going to get finished. I think this is a C tier game. I think it might be a B tier. Yeah, it's better than Ara, probably. I think it's better than Planetfall as well. So this game is a Master of Magic-like game. It's a Fantasy 4X game, but it's got a very heavy focus on, customization. You can, again, like Conquest of Elysium and Galciv, you can set this up to play very differently depending on how you want to play it. It's got a robust tactical battle system, turn-based tactical combat, as you'd expect from a Fantasy 4X. And it also has it's just got a really, really detailed civic, kind of city building system with many, many civic buildings that you can build. It's got like hundreds of civics in it. This is what happens when your games design kind of theory is, or your games design idea is, let's just put as much stuff in as possible, and yet they try to make it work. It's not like, it's like NetHack. It's got or like Conquest of Elysium. It's got loads of stuff in, but it's all coherent. You know what I mean? And so it's a pretty good game. The problem is it's just unfinished. It kind of requires mods, I think, now for to really get the most out of it. Daz Tactic really likes this game. This game came out when I was at university, and I went to uni relatively recently. By the way, guys, it was like 6 years ago. I'm an old guy who went to university late. And so I didn't have time to play it because I was so busy at uni. So I never really got heavily into it. But what I played of this, I like. I think this is a B tier game. I might have put it in C tier before. It's somewhere between C and D. C and B. It's just a little bit bloated for me. It's not quite tight enough. I think if you don't mind though, if you like sandbox games, you might really like this. I'm going to put it in B, I think. Okay. Here's another masterpiece by Illwinter Games Design. This is Dominion 6. I've talked at length about Dominions, so I'm not going to go on too much about it. It is a fantasy 4X game. This one is very much a 4X now. Dominions 5 and previous, they didn't have they didn't have Fog of War on the map, and so it was arguably not a 4X. But Dominion 6 is very much, it is a 4X game now. It's still very heavily focused on combat. It's got just like Conquest of Elysium, it's got an auto battler system. These games share resources, by the way, so you'll see units from Conquest of Elysium in Dominions and vice versa. But whereas Conquest of Elysium has got a more classic Dungeons and Dragons, sort of classic fantasy sort of setting, Dominion 6 is very much a setting created by the developers. One of whom is a history professor, if I remember right, or I think he does comparative religion or something. That's Christopher. And they are very, very serious about keeping everything in theme. It's such a wonderful game, this is. It's got a huge multiplayer community. This has got there's more people who play Dominion 6 and the Dominion series in multiplayer than any of these other 4X games put together, pretty much, apart from Civ, I'd say. And even Civ doesn't have big multiplayer numbers. I mean, Dominions, my friend Lucid Tactics, who is a Dominions expert, and he runs a channel and he runs the tournaments, and Lucid's the Dominions guy. He told me that he thinks that there's somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 regular multiplayer players playing at any one time, which is crazy. It's crazy. So this is by far one of the biggest, most played multiplayer strategy games on the planet, and it's the best. It's got endless content. There's something like 120 nations in the game to pick from. They are all very, very different. It's split across 3 ages, and so there's a storyline that threads through each age with each nation. You pick a god. You pick a pretender chassis for a god, give it a bunch of abilities, and then your nation has unique units and spell access. But from that point on, it's very much a sandbox game. While I said that it's a massively played multiplayer game, and it's an incredibly good multiplayer game, you need to have a high IQ and be very dedicated to be good at this game. I've played thousands of hours of multiplayer Dominions, and I've still never won a game because I just don't quite have that ability to focus on games for months on end. But some people really love that kind of thing. But, and this is the thing I want to say about Dominion 6 over the rest of the series, and for all of you fools who thought that Dominion 6 was not a good upgrade over Dominions 5, okay, if you only play multiplayer, whatever. But if you are a single player and you like to play Dominions in single player like I do, this game, Dominions, if we were ranking Dominions 5 as a single player game, I'd say it was a B tier. But God, is Dominion 6 good now in single player? The AI is amazing. It's really good now. I will fight people over this. I can show you game saves where the AI has done surprising stuff. It also attacks you with thematic armies now, so it doesn't just build indie chaff. It will attack you with thugs. It will use tactics that that Illwinter programmed it to use, that players use, like thugging, like small groups of point buffed units. It uses thematic armies more to the point. So if you're playing not necessarily, on the highest difficulty as an optimization puzzle game, where you're trying to just, get the most difficult experience from the AI as possible, but you're playing it more like to explore what the game can offer you with the many options on the table and the wonderful map, random map generation and stuff, that this game is even better now, because for a start you can get out of wars more easily. You could do in Dominions 5, but it wasn't telegraphed how you could do it. But in Dominion 6 they've programmed in things like non-aggression pacts. So now the AI will come to you if you're strong and say, hey, let's have a non-aggression pact, and then it will work with you to attack a neighbor. Now it will just attack them on their own. You can't say, hey, could you attack this province or whatever. It doesn't do that quite yet, but man, this is so much better. I've just been playing Dominion 6, and I was playing as early age Satis, and I had a Muspelheim neighbor who I wanted to attack, but I also had Pangaea near to me, and if I attacked Muspelheim and Pangaea attacked me, I'd have been in big trouble. So I reached out to the AI and asked for a non-aggression pact, and it agreed. And then having this non-aggression pact meant that there's 3 turns now if it wants to cancel that non-aggression pact and attack you. So I went and attacked Muspelheim, and then the AI went and attacked Muspelheim at the same time, and we had to fight each other, really, we had to race each other to take Muspelheim's territory. This is exactly what happens in multiplayer. So Dominion 6, it's got other stuff that's made it better in multiplayer as well. The other things that it did over Dominions 5 was that the battles are bigger and more nuanced now. So the battles are far bigger, you're able to have far more units, and there's greater gradation between the spells that affect different sizes of troops, right from individual point buffing for, casting spells on individual units, right up to the whole battlefield wipe size. But they've added in a whole bunch of, kind of stuff that affects like 5 units, or 5 squares and 20 and maybe 3. So there's much more gradation in the spells. So the battles have become more complex and more interesting, because if you are a gamer who likes complexity in games, Dominions is going to be your bag. Dominions and Shadow Empire, they're the kings of complex gameplay while also making the games incredibly fun. But battle mode, I hear you cry. Dominions has got a terrible user interface. I can't play it because it looks like it's from 1974. That's because you do not understand user interface design, and you think that if you can somehow make it look like Age of Wonders 4, that it will somehow work. Nope, you could not get the template 4X UI into Dominions without reducing the complexity of Dominions gameplay. It is not possible, okay? I'm not saying that Dominions is perfect in its UI, but it's almost, in my opinion, it's almost perfect because it's so easy to play. Everything's got a hotkey, so you can play the game really, really quickly. Even stuff like blood hunting, which was notoriously micromanagement heavy, or not micromanagement, sorry, that's the wrong word. It was very, very heavy on, having to make a lot of actions, a lot of clicking. Even that has got its own hotkeys and tools for now to be able to automate. So Dominion 6 is just a masterpiece, man. It's maybe not been out quite long enough, but because these games are venerable, and Dominions originally came out in 2000. I'm going to put this into a masterpiece category. So bending the rules a little bit, but this is a masterpiece. Okay, there's nothing on the market like Dominions. What other game has like 2,000 spells or whatever it is, or was it 3,000 or 4,000 different units? The longer you play this game, the more you'll get out of it. It's endless gameplay. What this game is like £35 or £40 or something, and you are going to get years of gameplay out of this game, whereas the rest of these games, most of them you'll have expended within 40 hours. This thing will go for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 hours, even in single player. So yeah, Dominions, masterpiece. It's probably even better than Conquest of Elysium, and I think Conquest of Elysium is a bloody great game. Okay, DR4X. This is a weird one. It's a game by the developer Untrusted Life, and I didn't play this enough to really give it my full opinion. I didn't like it very much because, okay, this is kind of like it's a fast-paced 4X game in a sort of fantasy vibe. I think it's fantasy. It's got a very unusual aesthetic. The developer put a lot of time into things like, it's weird because it kind of looks like a Unity store flip, game, with the classic Unity hex map stuff, but then the developer made just loads of effort to kind of give it this like CRT filter and this really weird storyline and stuff. It's really cool. I gotta say, I don't personally like it much, and so I never really got that deep into it, but it's got good reviews on Steam. It's a shame it never really took off. I think it's just too weird for most people, but if you like short-paced fantasy 4X games, I think it's fantasy. If you like short-paced fantasy games, you should go and check this out. It's very unusual. So yeah, go and give Untrusted Life some love. I don't know if he's still working on it or whether it's finished now, but yeah, that's a cool game. It's just not really for me. Okay, Dune Spice Wars. This is a tricky one for me to place because I don't like this game, but I recognise that it's got some elements of fantastic games design in it. I'm going to put it in C tier. So this game is based on the Dune universe, and it's an RTS very much like Northgard, except it's much more complex in the way that you approach victory. There are many interlocking systems which you have to be able to juggle in order to be able to win, because there are different ways you can win. So you can win kind of like an alliance victory through, I think it's the Landsraad Council. There's also ways to kind of powerhouse your economy using the Spacing Guild stuff. You can assassinate your opponents in order to win. So there's espionage. And then there's, you can use the nukes from the game, the atomics, in order to be able to defeat your enemies. But the problem is this game's got really crap combat. And I'm sorry, but it's an RTS game. It's a bit like, it's an RTS 4X hybrid game like Sins of a Solar Empire. But the problem is, the combat gameplay is just really, really bad, and it's got really bad pathfinding, which makes the game you know, it's got a conflicting games design issue, which is the game was designed so that you're not supposed. So attention isn't a resource. It's not supposed to be an RTS like, you know, Dawn of War or StarCraft, right? They didn't want it so that your attention is a resource, but they put in some mechanics that mean attention is a resource. Like, I think they got rid of this now, but originally when the game released, your spice harvesters, you know, they get attacked by sandworms. So you can set them to be automated so that when the sandworm turns up, they just fly off, but you get less spice. So you're encouraged to watch them, not use that, so you get more spice. So in a game where they said, no, we don't want attention as a resource, they put attention as a resource. I think they removed that later. But, like, that's just an example. And another thing is that your units have a water supply, which is really cool because it's very thematic, right? So your units can only be out in the desert fighting for a little while before they have to return. I think that was to stop the game just becoming like a classic RTS. But the problem is, you can't like kite enemy units or something unless you really powerhouse water. That does make you stronger in battles, and that is a cool games design decision. But the problem is the pathfinding and the combat's so clunky that it's not fun to play. I don't know. I just don't like this game. I really want to like it. I think if they'd have just pulled their fingers out their asses and just said, okay, let's just make it let's make it a proper RTS game like Sins of a Solar Empire, and have the 4X stuff on top. And just, the player's just going to have to deal with it. Like, another game like that, by the way, is... Where are we? Star Ruler 2. That's a really complex game. It's got the same kind of complexity as Dune Spice Wars, but it's still a proper 4X game. They've not tried to nerf the action. The action's nerfed too much. So, yeah. Great ideas, though. The way that it's implemented the Dune universe is just fantastic. It's just... it's like, I look at it and I just think, look at what you could have won. Okay, Distant Worlds. Where's Distant Worlds Universe? Okay, so Distant Worlds Universe and Distant Worlds 2. I think Distant Worlds games are A-tier games. I think Distant Worlds 2 is particularly good. They are real-time 4X games like Stellaris with massive scale and very detailed economic and resource management systems. Distant Worlds Universe was the older version of the game. They've got very, very detailed ship designers, and Distant Worlds Universe really allowed you to do whatever you wanted with ship design, very much like Space Empires 4 and 5. But the problem is with Distant Worlds Universe is the combat was crap. So the game, the combat wasn't really very good, and even though you had this really wonderful ship designer, it was very easy to find optimal strategies, and that kind of killed the fun. Distant Worlds 2 is way better, and the reason being is because Distant Worlds 2 put some limitations in the ship designer. So ships have hard points now, and so in Distant Worlds, for example, a frigate, there's no difference between a frigate and a battleship except the number of modules on it. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. You could build a frigate to be a battleship and a battleship to be like a frigate. That was cool and interesting and weird, but it didn't actually work very well in terms of combat gameplay. Distant Worlds 2 is much better. Ships have got very distinct roles now, but you can still customize them to do all kinds of weird things. So adding in some limitations absolutely increase the quality of this game. Not only that, but the combat now is really good. You can actually control your ships better, and you can pull off things like flanking maneuvers. You can jump behind enemy ships with like jump drives. You can do all sorts of tactical stuff in combat now, so that makes this game way better. Where Distant Worlds 2 fails to be an S-tier game for me, I used to think these were S-tier, but I've found problems with them now. So, Distant Worlds 2 has a resource-based economy, but Codeforce just aren't brave enough to put in a slider that allows the resource distribution to be a little bit more unbalanced, because there's just not enough incentive really to go and invade enemy worlds for resources for my liking. I'm not saying that this is a big problem. Distant Worlds 2 plays beautifully now. Don't look at the Steam reviews. This is another game like the Galciv games like Galciv 4, where it came out and it wasn't that good when it came out, and that really ruined its sales. But just like Galciv 4 now, it's increased in quality so much that I don't think that the current game reviews really reflect what the quality of the game is like now. I like Eric Rutin's a lot, and I've spoken to him a fair bit about Distant Worlds 2. I think it's a really good game. This could be a masterpiece. It just needs just a little bit more. But every time they release a new DLC, they're always updating the base game. I think they, this is a passion project. I know for a fact that it's Eric Rutin's baby project, and him and Elliot, they work really hard on the game. I think they've got more people on it now as well. But really, it's a 2-man project or 3-man project. So what they've created is absolutely crazy just for 2 people, or 3 people, I think it is now. So they've done such a great job. I just wish there was a little bit more, just a little bit tighter gameplay, and I wish the resources could be a little bit more asymmetric, because I want to be able to run out of steel, right? I want to be able to run out of steel, or to have steel so, I want it such a limited resource that I have to go and trade with someone for it, or I have to go and take it. But the problem is, at the moment, the resources are just a little bit too easy to get, and so that to me, in a game that's all about resource economy, it doesn't quite fit. And that otherwise, if that was fixed, this would be S tier. It'd be S tier, no doubt. What do we got here? We have Aurora 4X. This is an A tier game, I think. I haven't played it enough to really... I'm tempted to put it in haven't played enough, but the thing is, I have played it enough to know that I like this game, and I get what it does. This was originally created as a tool to assist in an RPG session, an RPG game, a sci-fi RPG, and then, tabletop role-playing game. But the developer realized that it actually worked quite well as a video game in and of itself. It has the same kind of depth that a game like Shadow... It's not quite as complex as Shadow Empire, but it has a lot of detail. What I mean by that is, it's a classic space 4X. You start, on Earth, or, another Earth-like planet, and you have to explore the galaxy, build ships, you have to fund your military, you have to fund your economic systems, you have to build factories. It's got all the good 4X stuff, exploration, it's got enemy alien civilizations to go and meet. The thing is, it's super detailed. So when you build a ship, you have to design every component, right down to things like the tracking system on your torpedoes, on your space torpedoes, or how fast the velocity of your ships will be, the acceleration rate. It's incredibly detailed. It's got a promotion system where you can promote all of your leaders into different positions. So it's almost like it's still got that role-playing game element, quite like Shadow Empire in that respect. Oh yeah, by the way, one more thing about Distant Worlds 2 is the leader system's a little bit boring. It's kind of like Stellaris. It's got really boring leaders. That's another reason why it's not S tier for me. If they fix that, it would be really good. But this has got a really cool leader system, because everybody, it's kind of like it's like playing Battletech or something, with Megamech, where you can really kind of get into the headspace of, your empire. You give all your characters names, and you can imagine where they are. Like this guy's leading one of your fleets. This is one of your bigger economic leaders. It will tell you all their background and stuff. It's so deep. The thing is, what stops it from being an S tier game, I think, is one, it's a bit clunky. And I hate that term, by the way, because that's usually used by people who, don't like old games, to kind of slag off games that they don't understand. Oh, this game's clunky because it's got a user interface made before 2015. No, this game is a little bit clunky in the sense that you need to kind of have a degree in Aurora 4X to be able to play it. There are no good tutorials on this game. At least there weren't the last time I looked, about 4 years ago. I tried to get into this game when the C# version came out, and I struggled with it. And I worked, I could figure out Dwarf Fortress. The thing is about Dwarf Fortress, though, the original ASCII version, is at least it had a really good tutorial on the wiki. So it taught you how to play. There's nothing really like that with Aurora 4X. There are a few YouTubers who do it, but God, their videos are bad. Almost all of them. They're either really low quality, or they don't know how to present their, they're just not very good at speaking. No offense to anyone who does Aurora 4X, by the way. I don't mean to be mean to anybody, but it desperately needs a tutorial. Okay, a solid tutorial. Now, you may say, oh, Ben, you've not done any research. Actually, there is one now. And if so, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to play Aurora 4X. I think this is a fantastic game. I think it's up there with all these other great games in A tier. But it's just, I'm also not sure about how good the AI is. I heard the AI is a bit hit and miss, but it's a fantastic game, man. All right, now I've got another masterpiece. Eodor Genesis is a masterpiece, and I originally would have put it down into 8. Okay, so this has had a funny trajectory. I originally thought it was crap. I didn't get it. I thought it was like, okay, this looks all right, but I don't get it. I then heard it had bad AI, so I let that colour my opinion of the game. But now I've played this a lot now. I've got like a lot of hours in this game. This is a masterpiece. And I am playing with the New Horizons mod, okay? But I think most players who play Eodor Genesis do. New Horizons it fixes some bugs, it tightens the game up in various ways, and it adds it adds quite a lot more content, but it's all super tight. What's great about Eodor Genesis? Okay, so it's a fantasy 4X game. It's a little bit like Dominions in the way that you expand, but you only have one major city. Your home city, where your wizard's tower is, or where your citadel is where you build all your unit production buildings. And so like Master of Magic and Dominions, like Master of Magic, you'll have heroes in the game. You hire a hero at the start of the game, and then you'll unlock a few. You'll be able to buy more later on. You never have a lot of heroes, so it's not like you're going to be running around the map like in Dominions with 50 armies at some points. Really, you're going to have like 3 or 4 max. But you explore the map, and you can exploit the territory. So once you've explored the map, you'll find like monster layers and stuff, and you can hunt them down, kill the monsters in tactical battles, and then you will be able to exploit the land. You can build little buildings that will give you gold boosts or boosts of whatever resources on there. But for the most part, your city management is all done in your one main city. That is great, because not only does that mean you haven't got this problem that you get in games like Master of Orion 2 and Master of Magic, where you've every time you take a new colony or a new territory, you've got to build all the same stuff all over again just to build your units. No, it doesn't work like that. This is masterpiece level games design. You only build your units at home, and that, or you only have your unit unlock buildings at home, and it has a really big tree of buildings. And the core gameplay idea, or the core design, like what's genius about the design, is that you cannot delete buildings, or you can't destroy buildings after you've created them. So you have to commit to a build. So let's say you want these specific kinds of units. You'll get like, for each tier of unit and for each tier of spells, at the lower tiers you'll get like 4 or 5 options, and then as they go up the tiers you get less and less options. So you will build your units, your compositions of what you get in your armies from your unit production buildings, but you can never go backwards. Okay, so once you've committed to having archers instead of like slingers, you are stuck with archers, and the same with the spells. But the combat is so tight, right? And the enemy composition in the locations that you find is so masterfully done that you will be always wanting the thing that you can't quite have, right? So you'll come up across a battle and you'll know, man, now if I have this specific unit type, I can kill that dragon early and get a real big power boost. And you're going to need it, because not only is the environmental gameplay of, the player versus environment gameplay of Eodor Genesis really, really high, but the AI isn't as bad as people have made it out to be. In fact, I think New Horizons must have done something to the game AI, because I play this on a higher AI level now, and sometimes it wrecks me. It will come and kill you. Sometimes you don't see it for a while. It's kind of just busy clearing the land on its own, and some of them are more or less aggressive, but sometimes they'll just go for the throat. And I've lost games of Eodor Genesis on the normal difficulty setting, which is actually quite hard. And because the AI has just gone for me, and I've just not been ready for it, and it's just come up to me with a certain set of units that I don't have the counters for, and so I've not really had the time to go and build the counters that I need. Oh man, this game is so good. This is better than Master of Magic, and that's saying something. It's better than Caster of Magic even. I just think this is a masterpiece game. And it's not just me who thinks this, by the way. Go and talk to Lucid Tactics if you can get him to talk to you, because he will tell you how good this game is. It was him that got me onto this game. I think he saw my tier list of putting Eodor down in C or something, and he was like, "No, man, Ben, you need to go and play that game." And he showed me what was good about it, and then I went in and played it myself, and I was like, holy crap, Lucid was right. This is a masterpiece of a game. This will be a great game forever. Unlike Eodor Imperium, Eodor Imperium is D tier. Like, this is a good game. The problem is, this is the third game in the series. I think there was also Eodor Master of the Broken Worlds. I didn't buy that one because I've found Eodor Genesis and I do not care about any of the others now. But this one's broken. I've explained why before. They couldn't fix it. It was like the original Elemental game from Stardock. There was just a fatal problem in the game engine that they could not fix. So there's a character that pops up in the tutorial who offers your money back. He's like, I'm really sorry, if you come across game-breaking crashes, we can't seem to fix it. It doesn't affect everybody. So please get in touch. We'll give you your money back. And it's like this kind of cartoon knight that comes up and tells you. I had such respect for the developers for doing that. This is a good game, by the way. I'm going to put it in D tier just because it's broken. Eodor Masters of the Broken Game. I feel so sorry for the developers for that. That must have been a nightmare to deal with. But at least he made this. I mean, this is just next level gameplay. I've not even talked about, you know, all the reasons why Eodor Genesis is good. Maybe I'll do a video on it. Maybe I'll do a let's play of it. But you got to see this game, man. It's a little bit tricky to get running on some people's computers. I think that's one of the downsides of it. A bit like Armageddon Empires, but this is a masterpiece, man. Emperor of the Fading Suns. This is S tier, high S tier. This has got one of the best games design I've ever seen for a multiplayer game. The only thing that stops this being a masterpiece, in my opinion, is the game AI in single player isn't quite good enough to really play the game in a competitive way, but it will play in a thematic, fun way. I think Emperor of the Fading. I've done a video on this, guys, and I've also did an interview with the developer, at least the guy who's currently kind of running the game project, Andrew Greenberg from Holistic Design. They make absolutely amazing games. They had games designers of a caliber that you just do not see now in the gaming industry. They are a dying breed, unfortunately. I'm not saying everybody's that, you know, there are some really good modern games designers, no doubt. But generally speaking, people like Andrew Greenberg and his pals were of a dying breed of games designers who really, really understood how to make fun games. And they knew how to remove exploits in a thematic way. I won't talk too much about this. It's a space 4X game, terrestrial 4X game, but you're not just confined to one planet. There's multiple planets across the galaxy. It's got a very complex political system, and it's got very many mechanics that are lore-friendly, that enforce certain game rules. Oh god, I could talk about this game forever. I won't go into it too much now. Please go and watch my video on Emperor of the Fading Suns, and you'll see why I think this is an S tier game. It's bordering on masterpiece. The problem is, it's just the game AI is not great. If the game AI, you know, could be made so that it was as good as, you know, Armageddon Empires or you know, Dominions or something, then this would be a masterpiece as well. I think in terms of games design, if we're just looking at multiplayer, this is a masterpiece. From, you know, I just think that I'm tempted to put it in here anyway. The problem is, it's just the game AI. If the game AI was better, it would be a masterpiece. But this is like, you know, it doesn't get much better than this. This is one of the best 4X games ever made. Elemental Reforged. Okay, this is a new one on my list. Now, again, I work for Stardock. Elemental is Brad Wardell's, you know, fantasy baby game. It's so good, this one now. Elemental was broken. You know, Fallen Enchantress was a decent game, but it was, you know, I like this one a lot, by the way, but it's nothing compared to Elemental Reforged. They've just polished this game up so much. Now, I've only just been able to play this game properly because I had a weird issue with this game specifically where I had driver conflicts on my computer on my old Windows 10 build that just crashed with Elemental Reforged. It wasn't actually the game, it turned out. I thought it was the game for ages, and I was complaining to Stardock, and they were like, they tried to help me with it, and then I realised, no, this is my computer, and I finally figured it out. So now I can play this game without it crashing, and it's really, really good. One of my buddies doesn't like this game at all. He thinks it's shit. He's like, no, I don't like Elements. I think it's crap. No, I don't agree. I think this has got really good. It's got elements of really good games design. But like all of Stardock's games, right? Most of Stardock's games, this is a sandbox game. And so if you go into Elemental thinking it's, you know, wanting a tight game like Eodor or Dominions or something, it's not like that. It's very much this allows you to design your own units. It's got a hero, you know, very detailed hero development system in it, as you'd expect from a Fantasy 4X, but far better than Endless Legend or anything like that. But it allows you to design your own units as well. And it's got a lot of aesthetic stuff in it, but it's also gameplay choices. It's not like Age of Wonders 4, where most of the customization really just boils down to different, you know, modifiers. Actually, this unlocks a lot of new gameplay depending on how you build your faction. It's got really good civic management as well. The 4X gameplay in this is excellent. I think that Elemental, for me, now bear in mind I am biased because I work for Stardock, I think Elemental's an A tier game now. I think what stops it being an S tier game is that it's just got the design's not perfect. It's got some loose ends. It's quite easy to play. It's quite easy to kind of make yourself really, really powerful to the point where the AI struggles to play against you. And like some of Stardock's other games, I feel like Stardock are just a little bit reluctant to make game AI that's going to crush you. They don't seem to like doing that, and I think they could if they really wanted to, because actually Brad Wardell himself is an expert game AI developer. Like, if you've ever played Galciv 2, you'll know what I mean. Like, Brad knows he can make a banging game AI. I think he wants games to be fun more than like super challenging, if that makes sense. So, he tends to, this is my personal opinion. This is just my personal opinion, but I think they tend to just underdo the AI just a little bit. So that's the only issue I've got with Elemental Reforged, but I love playing this game now. This is really good fun, but it's very different to Eardor. It's not quite on the same level as these games, man. It's not as good as, these S tier games, but I'm going to put it like low. Yeah, I'm going to put it in like low A tier. I think this is a really, really good game now, but just know what you're getting yourself into. It's a sandbox game. It's not super tight. Okay, Empire at War. I started playing this recently. I had this originally I bought this on disc. I never played it that much. I'll be honest, I don't know this game well enough. I don't think it's really a 4X. It feels more like something like Total War, but with RTS gameplay. I don't much like the RTS gameplay in it, actually, but the strategic side of it's pretty cool. But I don't really know it well enough to comment. So you guys are going to have to let me know. What do you think of Empire at War? I've got a friend who really likes that game. Okay. Endless Legend. I've softened on this game as time's gone on. I think this is better than I used to say. I used to like really dunk on this game a lot. I think the problem with Endless Legend is the reason why I like Elemental as a Fantasy 4X more than Endless Legend. I think Endless Legend's a tighter game, but the problem is that it doesn't really like the fantasy sandboxy elements of the game, which I feel Endless Legends should have, don't really exist. And so, it looks like, you can go on these great quests and your heroes can do all this and that. But the problem is, because you're always on the clock with Endless Legend because of the way that the game's structured, the game wants you to go west and you kind of want to go east. That's probably a way of putting it. So the 4X game really conflicts with the quest-based systems. Well, I don't get that in Elemental Reforged because the quests in Elemental are largely optional and you're often doing it just to get more cool gear and stuff, for your heroes, or to unlock new spells and things. Whereas in Endless Legend, yeah, I don't know. But this is a good game. The problem is the combat's controversial. I don't mind the automated combat in this. I think it was a brave thing for Amplitude to try. The problem is I just don't like Amplitude's game design in general. Endless Legend 2 I've not played yet. This one's being headed up now by Derek Paxton, who did Fall from Heaven and he did Fallen Enchantress Legendary Heroes. He worked at Stardock for a long time. I've met Derek. He's lovely. He's a really cool guy. I hope that I've heard bad things. I've got to be honest, but I think that it's a little bit too early to judge Endless Legend 2 yet. I'm refusing to play it until it comes out officially. So I don't have an opinion on it. But I didn't love Endless Legend, so I'm not expecting to love Endless Legend 2, to be honest. However, it has got Derek Paxton, and Derek Paxton is a really good games designer. Endless Space. I don't like this game much. I didn't really play it enough. I bounced off it, honestly. I played it for about half an hour and bounced off it. I thought it looked nice, but it just seemed too simplistic for me. But I don't really have an opinion on that. Endless Space 2, though, I did play that, and I don't like this game. I cannot get into it. I don't know why. Every time I play it, I'm just bored to tears. It looks beautiful. I love the faction design in it. I really want to like this game. I just can't get into it. And I think that the game mechanics are just. I just get the impression that Endless Space, the Endless games are very much aesthetic over gameplay. But a lot of people argue with me about this one, and not like with Age of Wonders where they just go, "Oh, you're just wrong," but they can't show any. They can't really I haven't really ever had anybody able to kind of really deconstruct my critique of Age of Wonders 4, where I've said, look, it's number one games design. It's got all the corners sanded off. The combat isn't lethal enough, so it's not exciting. You know, those are things you have to argue against. With Endless Space, though, I just can't get into it enough to be able to really analyze it why I don't like it. So I feel like I need to try it for a third time, but God, it bored me to tears, man. I just felt bored playing it. Here's a weird game for you guys. Galactic Ruler Enlightenment. I'm gonna surprise people. I'm gonna put this in like high C tier. This is BattleGoat's weird, you know, futuristic Space 4X version of Supreme Commander, which is a kind of RTS grand strategy hybrid game that has got really, really good combat and a very good, very solid economic system. Galactic Ruler inherits the combat and it inherits some of the economic system, but it's nowhere as detailed as Supreme Ruler, whatever it's called, those games. But Galactic Ruler is Enlightenment. It's actually better than people give it credit for. This has got like really mixed reviews, you know, when you look at it online. But the Enlightenment version actually polished the game up quite a lot. I think they probably just repackaged this one and gave it a new name just so to get around the negative reviews from the original game, to be honest with you. But they did add a campaign in as well. This is a difficult game to learn because there's not really, you know, there's not that many people who play it. But I had a lot of fun with this. I think if you can get over the very, very unusual user interface, it's an old style user interface, so I get on with it fine because I play Dominions and I play Eodor and I play Emperor of the Fading Suns and I play Master of Magic, etc. So older style UIs do not bother me. If you're not a slave to your desire for every game to look like Endless Legend or whatever, and you can get over the user interface and you don't mind that the game is a little bit janky and it's a bit bug filled. Like in just 2 weeks of playing this game, I must have logged about 15 bugs for this game. It was like there's so many bugs, but it's really good. It's really, really good fun. It's just a long game, and what I'll say that makes this game stand out from the competition is that when you go and take an enemy planet, you don't just fly over there and then bombard it a little bit like you do in, you know, Master of Orion, beat the fleet on the outside and then you land some troops and there's like an automated battle. Oh no. You've got to figure out where on that planet you're going to land, and then you've got to get supplies, you know, to that invasion force because there's logistics in this game, like in Shadow Empire. And then you've got to make a beachhead landing, and then you've got to supply all of your forces, often while fighting off fleets that are trying to, you know, dislodge your invasion force. And then you've got the enemy coming in at you with massive armies. And you've got to basically fight this crazy ground war, and, you know, real-time strategy ground war. Yeah, Galactic Ruler, if it was polished, this would be a great game. I'd like put it up there in like A tier or something, but it's just janky, you know. But God, is it fun? I think people would lynch me if I put it in B tier just because of how kind of broken it is. But like in fun fact, I'm going to put it in B because I really enjoyed this game. I really like playing it. But then, you know, what stops the game being better for me is the fact that you do come into bugs and stuff that doesn't seem to work intuitively, and then you have to go and look at a wiki to try and figure out how combat works. But there's no wiki, so you have to go and look at Supreme Ruler instead because, you know, the game's similar enough to Supreme Ruler that you kind of have to use all the documentation for like a 15-year-old, you know, historical, you know, or what do you call it, like a grand strategy game to try and figure out your Space 4X. But if you want to try something weird and you don't mind, you know, helping the team bug hunt the game. By the way, I ain't played this in a couple of years, so it might be really polished now. I don't know. Knowing BattleGoat, though, I doubt it. I suspect that they've gradually polished it as they've gone, and it will be better than it was. But I'm going to put this in low B tier because this is a really fun game. The problem is it can't go any higher just because of how kind of damaged it is. Okay, we're back to some Stardock games now. So yeah, again, please remember I work for Stardock, so I've got a conflict of interest. Galactic Civilizations, I never played the OS2 version because I never had an OS2 computer, but that came out in 1993, I think, or 94. No, I think it was before Master of Orion, at least the beta version. So Brad actually beat Simtex to the Space 4X race, believe it or not. That was a cool game, but Galactic Civilizations 1, this is a really good game. You might be surprised to hear this. So it's very much a sandbox 4X game again. However, in this one, you're limited only to playing the Terran Alliance. You don't get a choice of factions, but it's got all the the Drengin are in there, or Drengin, and the Altarians, and all of the Yor I think are in there. So you've got all of the classic Galciv races, but the gameplay in this game is really good. I'm going to put this I think this is a really tight game. I think when my boss is on form, man, he's a really, really solid games designer, and it's got good AI as well, because he's a really, really good AI developer as well. So I think I want to put Galciv low A tier, Galciv 1. It's old, and it's, again, it's going to have an old UI. It's got some old games design things, because this is a game, that was developed during the 90s, right? But the Windows version is superb. It's still a great game. I went and did a video for Stardock talking about the history of Galactic Civilizations. So I had to get some footage for the game, and I ended up getting into it, and I must have played about 20, 30 hours of this again. And I bought this, by the way, first time round. And I'll talk about this when I talk about Master of Orion 3, but it has there's an interesting story behind this with Master of Orion 3 too. But yeah, Galciv 1 is a good game. Galciv 2, though, is a great game. This is high A tier. The only thing that stops Galciv 2 being an S tier game is that it's a little bit easy to exploit certain mechanics like diplomacy, I'd say, and the ship combat isn't great, but it's simple enough that the AI can play it really well, and it's just a really solid game. This is still well beloved across 4X fans. Even the people who don't like Stardock, because there's quite a lot of people who just don't like Stardock for various reasons. Even the people who don't like Stardock will grudgingly admit that Galactic Civilizations 2 is nearly a masterpiece of a game. I think it's low S tier. I think the only thing that stops it from being masterpiece is the fact that it's a little bit exploitable. But God, is this a good game. This is a really good game. It might be Stardock's best 4X game. But don't let my boss hear me say that. Okay, Galactic Civilizations 3. I liked this one. This was one that John Schaefer was kind of designed, I think. He partly did the design. And I think Galactic Civilizations 3 is a good game. I don't think it's great, but I really like this. A lot of people didn't like it. And, I just think this was a fairly solid Galciv game. The move from tiles to hexes, and they just did a lot of stuff to fix it after the fact that kind of made the game a little bit strange, I think. But I like the finished product of Galciv 3. I had a lot of fun with this. I know Daz Tactic, my friend Daz Tactic, really likes this one too. So I'm going to put this in sort of mid B tier. I think it's a good game, that. Galactic Civilizations 4. Okay, I like Galactic Civilizations 4 more than most people, because I get what Galactic Civilizations 4 is. If you catch Battle Mode off the clock when he's not doing work, when he's not making videos for his channel, when he's not hanging out with Battle Wife, you will probably find me playing one of these games, any one of these games I'll probably be playing, or Galactic Civilizations 4, because believe it or not, even though this game is a little bit loose, it's not a tight game, it's very much a sandbox build-a-bear gameplay. I really like this game because I love the expand and exploit phases. I would say that the colony management in this game is absolutely amazing. It's there's the adjacency system with the districts and improvements is really, really good. The core world colony split is genius games design, in my opinion. I don't know if that was Brad or if that was Derek Paxton came up with that, but it's such a great games design idea. It's really, really good. It means, so you get a choice between, personally managing and building up your worlds, or having them as feeder colonies into your other planets. And so you've got this great crunchy gameplay of you can play it like an optimization puzzle game where you really want to trying to get the most out of your economic situation on each planet, your economy. It's got a really interesting diplomacy system in this. It's not interesting in terms of it looks like every other 4X game diplomacy system, but everything that you do in Galciv will affect diplomacy. So the choices you make in events will affect your diplomacy. things like whether you're trading or not with somebody will really affect in a big way whether they're going to attack you or not, or whether they're going to see you more like an ally. So you can use trade as a diplomatic tool. So even if it's not going to benefit your empire to trade with someone, because you're making them stronger, you might be putting off an invasion. That's why you might trade with the Korath, who want to exterminate you, right? The Korath clan want to exterminate you, but if you're not strong enough to fight them because you're already in another war, maybe you need to trade with them for a bit, and it makes them stronger, but it also keeps them from killing you. I like that kind of gameplay. Believe it or not, you don't get that kind of gameplay in most 4X games. Even though they promise it, the diplomacy is never really tied into the game mechanics that deeply. So people miss that about Galciv, but the problem... I'm going to tell you honestly what the main problem with Galactic Civilizations 4 is now. It's not the game's design. It's got some loose stuff in there, and the ship design UI is still a bit crappy, and there's stuff in there that's a bit of a problem. But the actual core gameplay in many areas is really good. I actually really like the auto battler combat system now as well. When we did the update that accompanied the Warlords DLC, it really improved the battle, the way that you do fleet combat now, because you can actually program each individual ship to attack certain ship types. This makes the combat in Galciv really, really super crunchy. The ship design is also on a level that you don't really see on any other game. Although there is redundant stuff in there now, and that kind of annoys me. But Galactic Civilizations 4 is far better than most people think. I think the people who get Galciv really love it, yeah? People who like Galciv really, really like it. But, it's kind of Marmite, and a lot of players do not like Galciv. And I'm not talking about the guys who just hate Stardock because they hate Stardock. But there's people who have genuine games design problems with Galciv, and that's absolutely fair. And I will hold my hands up and say, I will never say that Galciv 4 is like, an S-tier game. I would be lying. But is it fun? Yeah. I think this is a really fun game. You can play it in so many different ways, man. The way that you set this game up will change how the game plays in a big way. Like, if you give yourself loads of room to expand, you're going to be playing a sort of exploit, expand, optimization puzzle game for the first part of the game. That could be really fun. So if you put yourself on a big galaxy and not so many AI players, that's just, like, I will just play that happily because the gameplay is just that deep. Or you can put yourself in a hostile galaxy surrounded by really evil players and barely any room to expand, and then you're going to have to be playing aggressively right from the start, and the gameplay completely changes again. Then it's more about diplomacy and economic optimization to rapidly build military fleets to defend yourself. Yeah, this is a good game, man. I think that people are, I know people might go, well, you work for Stardock, you will say that. I've just been honest to you about the problems with Galciv and Elemental and stuff. So trust me when I say this is a good game. Go and check it out. It's really, really good. But it's not a tight game like Master of Orion or whatever. It's a completely different game, and you need to know what you're getting yourself in for. It's a sandbox game. Okay. I'm going to put it at bottom of A tier, just because I think that the design problems are enough that it's kind of really probably a B tier game. But in terms, I'm going to allow my bias to come in here. The amount of, because I play this game way more than any of the other games, really, mostly. Like, I play this a lot. I really like this game. But, I play it after I've clocked off work, and I have to work on this game all the time. So, that tells you how much I like Galciv, and I'm not faking that. I strongly suspect that one of the reasons I got my job at Stardock was because, I really like this game and I was positive about it, and I could see what they were trying to do with it, even through the flaws. Anyway, Warhammer 40k Gladius Relics of War. This is a S tier game. This is a bloody brilliant game. It is more like turn-based StarCraft, so it plays more like an RTS, except like a turn-based version of an RTS game, if that makes sense. No, that's not a paradox, that's not an oxymoron, or that is a very much how it plays. You have a base, you pump out military units, they spread out across the map, explore it, very much like a 4X game, but then you will find spaces to build more bases, but you don't have that many. Just like in StarCraft, you may get 2 or 3 bases, but no more. Same with Gladius. And then the gameplay is mostly warfare. The warfare simulation in this game is really, really good. It's also got no diplomacy, which is better. This game is worse with diplomacy, which is why when we come to talk about Zephon, you'll understand what I mean there. But Gladius is a S tier game. This is superb. It's Warhammer 40k. Not everyone loves that theme, you know, and some people just bounce off it because they don't like Warhammer. You are a fool, because this is a brilliant, brilliant strategy game. It's endlessly fun. It's got a great game AI. I think if what is it, Proxy? Yeah, Proxy Studios, if they took off the guardrails and really let Isles game, you know, if they really just, you know, left his game AI in, I think this would be absolutely brutal. But it's already really, really good. You can exploit the AI a little bit, but actually, until you know the game really well, this is, I mean, you know, it's going to crush you. It's going to crush you. You know, in the 41st millennium or whatever, there is only war, and that's basically what this game is. It's just a war game. It's a war-focused 4X game. It's not really a 4X. I don't class this as a 4X game, I'll be honest with you, but it's 4X-ish. Brilliant game. Hard Void. Okay, this is a new one. I haven't played this one much yet. The developer's been asking me to try it out. I haven't really had time. I don't really play beta versions. It's not really far enough done yet, but it's a kind of Master of Orion-ish game, except the enemy is like, it's kind of got like a Lovecraftian theme to it, so it's, you know, cosmic horrors that you're fighting against in a sci-fi setting. It looks really interesting. I don't have much more to say about it because I haven't really played it, but I think the developer really wants people to go and check it out. So go and check it out, see what you think, guys, and give us some feedback, and I'm going to get around to playing it at some point. Humankind I also haven't played. I don't like Amplitude's games very much, so I was in the beta for this. Rob got me into the beta, and you know, for the record, I really like the guys from Amplitude, by the way. They're all really nice. The problem is I just don't like their games very much, and I found the combat bad. I didn't think the way that they did the change, you know, you kind of change your whole nation, which is what Civ 7 did. I don't know why Civ 7 did that after Humankind, but people who like Humankind really like it. I don't think it's a bad game. I'm going to put it in haven't played enough, but I think if I was forced to put it somewhere, it'd be in, like, you know, C tier somewhere. I think it's a decent enough game. I just don't like it very much, and I can't really give you a proper judgment. Same with Imperium Galactica 2 and Imperium Galactica. These are classic games. They are broken though, like they are so exploitable, but they had great ideas. I've played Imperium Galactica 1 a little bit, and I see the appeal. Some people love these games, and they consider them, you know, classics. I think they show their age, but yeah, they're worthy of checking out, just to see what unusual stuff used to go on in the late 90s when games design wasn't so fixed and boring as it is now. But yeah, also bearing in mind the games design has come on in a lot of ways, and we try to avoid some of the issues that you get in these games. Immortal Realms Vampire, I didn't like this. This is not really a 4X game. It's kind of more like Gladius, I think, where it's kind of a tactical, you know, strategic tactical battle game with, you know, like a sort of 4X like layer on top. It's not a bad game. I just didn't really enjoy it very much. You're playing vampires. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about it. Imperium's Greek Wars, though. This is a S tier game. This is Pavel from Cube Games' other game. It's his more recent game. It's the one that he's developed further. This one's set during ancient Greece rather than ancient Rome, so it's set before. But actually, I think the scenarios go right back into the, you know, dawn of time, pretty much up to the Roman era. Anyway, I would just buy this game if you're interested. Very, very detailed game mechanics. It plays like a classic 4X, but it also, if you play it with one of the preset, what do you call it? If you play it one of the preset scenarios, it also plays like a grand strategy game, because, you know, you'll be starting out like you would, like in a Paradox grand strategy game, where your empire's a certain size, your opponents might be bigger than you, you know. But the great thing about this game is it's got a fantastic diplomacy system, which is very detailed, and you can ask your neighbors, you know, you can ask the other players for things like, can you help me invade somebody for a certain amount of turns, or I want to create a resource agreement, can you send me this and I'll send you this? And you can put time limits on them. It's got very detailed diplomacy, and it's got a working resource economy. This is a cornerstone of a good 4X game, because if in this game, right, like I say, if you haven't got wood, if you've run out of wood, you've chopped down all your forests, you can't even build a basic spearman anymore. So you've got to go and trade for it. If you've not got enough metal coming in and you've got a war on the horizon, you need to go and trade for metal with one of the other players in the game. So even in the preset scenarios, and honestly, I would go and play them because they're fantastic, where you're playing in the real Greek world with, on a real map, which nation you plays completely differently because of their starting scenario, as you would expect from a grand strategy game. But it also plays like a classic 4X where you just start with a single settler as well, and you can play it where you just build up on a completely procedurally generated map, and you can play as Sparta or the Greeks or whatever, Athens or Carthage, but they're all going to have their own kind of is it Carthage? I think Carthage come in later on with the Roman stuff, but anyway, yeah, you've got all these different Greek themed civilizations anyway, and you can build it in any way you want. It's a really, really good sandbox game, but it's also super tight. Yeah, this is a fantastic game, man. This is S tier game. I think that if this game had got more exposure, and I feel a bit bad because I should have exposed this more, but I just didn't have time to play it at the time. And it's quite you need to read the manual to understand this game. It's pretty complex. Combat mechanics, it's not like Civ where it's like a couple of basic dice rolls. This has got a whole simulation going on underneath, like morale, like how well trained your forces are, how well suited they are to the terrain they're fighting on, are they in supply, all this stuff. How good is their leader? Each individual army has an opinion of other enemy nations. So certain armies are going to fight better against certain enemies than others. I've never seen that in any other game before, not even in grand strategy games. So this guy's really, really thought about this game. It's so good. It's so good, and you need to go and play it. It's the best historical 4X, I think. I think it's better than Civ 4. I mean, and I like Civ 4, but I think in terms of just the focus of this game, what it does, how good the game mechanics are. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think if Pavel can just fix some of the, people are put off the UI. Stop whinging about UI, guys. Who cares about UI? Just play the damn game, yeah? Like, the game is really, really good. Just understand that it is complex and you have to read a manual. And the UI is complex because it's non-standard, because it's not that cookie cutter gameplay that the template UI is designed to make. I can tell you from experience, right? Games designers will remove features from games if it doesn't fit the template UI. So this guy doesn't do that. Neither do Illwinter, and neither does Vic from Shadow Empire. These guys understand that the UI needs to fit the game, not the other way around. If the game is fitting the UI, you've failed, man, because you've made your game suck because you need to have an UI that that is like everyone else's. Why would you do that? So anyway, I'm just rant about UI over. Imperium's Greek Wars is a bloody amazing game. Everybody should go and play it. It's one of the best 4X games ever made. Interstellar Space Genesis. This is solid B tier, like high B tier game. I still feel like I've not quite played this one enough to really put it through its paces, but there is stuff that in this game that I don't like. I feel like, well, so okay, what is it? This game is a Master of Orion 2, remake basically, but it's got more features, so they've added more stuff. I really like the colony management in this game. I'm going to put this on low A tier actually. I think it's good. I really love the colony management in this game. I think the economy is pretty decent. There are certain things in the game I don't love. Like, I initially quite like the system where you're able to kind of like remote telescope other sectors to see what's in them. After a bit I kind of got bored of it. It just felt like busy work, but it's not really. It's actually an important gameplay feature. I don't love the implementation of heroes, and aesthetically I don't like the game very much. I wish they just made some better choices with the way that the characters looked, because it's kind of like they tried to be like Master of Orion, where they've got quite strong themes for each race in the game. But I think I might have put this lower before, but I'm starting to like this game more the more I play it. The problem is it's just certain things about it that I'm not really sure. I've not really analysed this very, very heavily. There's another game in this list that I think is a better Master of Orion 2 like game, so that's the only reason why it doesn't go high. I think this is somewhere between B and A tier, guys. But if you like Master of Orion 2 and you want to play a modern version, you can't go far wrong with Interstellar Space Genesis.
This has got a way better colony management system than Master of Orion 2. Master of Orion 2 sucks compared to Interstellar Space Genesis in terms of its colony management. But, you know, yeah. Anyway, The Last Federation. I didn't play this that much. This is another Arkan game, so another Chris McElligott Park game. It's kind of like a story-based 4X-like game, but like all of Arkan's games, it's difficult to sort of categorize. It's very heavily based on diplomacy, and you're trying to repair a fractured galaxy. So you're trying to bring everybody together. That's what The Last Federation is about. You're trying to build a federation of united aliens and stopping them from being in a catastrophic war. It's really interesting. I just haven't played enough to be able to tell you if it's a really good game or not. Generally speaking, Arkan make good games, though. They're just weird and niche. Legion War is really arguably not a 4X, but because I've said 4X-ish games, it's kind of got good 4X gameplay. What I'll say about this is, well, it's got good gameplay. What I'll say about this game that's notable is it's a very, very, very good WeGo multiplayer game. So it's like you can play this game with like 5 or 6 players, and the game will be over into, you know, maybe an hour or two. So that's really cool because it's WeGo. More 4X games should do WeGo systems. It's very much based on the tactical battles, and there is some 4X gameplay in the sense that, you know, you'll build cities and stuff, but I think, or at least you'll capture cities and use them to, you know, build more units. But it's got some really, really crunchy gameplay in terms of building your factions. I think this is a really good game. It's arguably not a 4X, but it went on here just to make up the numbers, to be honest. But I just think that more people should play this game. It's a shame it didn't do that well. But in terms of quality of games design, this is really high. Games designer really, really was very, very clever. Okay, Machiavelli the Prince. This is another HDI, holistic design game. There's another S tier game, guys. You can see the roots of Machiavelli in Emperor of the Fading Suns, particularly with the diplomatic-based gameplay. But this is more like Sid Meier's colonization. You spread out. So you start in Venice, I think. Is it Venice? Yeah, it will be Venice. You start in Venice, and then you are one of 5 Venetian families that must go out into the world and kind of form trade agreements with the various nations and the various city-states that you find across the world. And then it's very much a trade optimization puzzle game, but there's diplomacy in it, and you can also conquer cities a little bit too. You can hire mercenaries to conquer cities, and that will get you better trade results. I'm not going to go talk about this game too deeply. I did a short Let's Play with a couple of episodes where you can go and see the gameplay. This is a bloody good game. I told you, man, the games, you don't get games designers of this kind of quality who know how to make unique games like this. These 2 games, there's nothing like either of them on the planet, and they are just so good. And if you've played, like, the user interface is familiar enough between the 2 games that if you played one, you'll probably be able to figure the other out pretty quickly. Emperor of the Fading Suns is a more grand scope game, but Machiavelli is bloody fun. Like, I was surprised how much I like this game, considering how old it is. Because this is like mid-90s, early 90s even. So it's an old game, but God, is it good. Okay, now we've got Master of Magic. Why is Millennia coming in there? So, Master of Magic. Sorry, my autism is not allowing this to be out of order. All right, Master of Magic, the cornerstone of the Fantasy 4X genre. Why have we got 3 versions? Well, the original Simtex version is this one. Master of Magic is an S tier game. No, it's an A tier game. The problem is with Master of Magic. Okay, before I tell you the problems, let me tell you what it is. It's the Fantasy 4X game. It's a Civ-like game, but with a fantasy theme. It's got playable tactical combat, turn-based tactical combat. The tactical combat in Master of Magic is very, very crunchy. You need to read the manual and the in-game tooltips to be able to understand how it works. Most modern games are very simple by comparison. Master of Magic has things like units, the amount of figures in a unit. They each get an attack. They've all got their own 2 hit, 2 damage, 2 defend rolls. And there's the combat mechanics actually are very, very complex. So it looks simple, but it's not. There's a lot to this game. And if you really want to be good at the game, you've got to understand these complex combat mechanics. It's also got a beautiful spellbook system, and you've got different wizards. You've got pre-built wizards, or you can make your own. They're all really thematic, and they took their magic system from Magic the Gathering, I believe. So you've got like life magic, death magic, nature magic, chaos magic, and is that it? Life, death, chaos, nature, and the sorcery one as well. Dominion's kind of loosely based. I think Dominion's kind of loosely based their magic system on something similar, but they really diverged in a big way. So like this is like Dominion's is like the super high autism version of Master of Magic, but it's a similar spellbook system. Also, you get to pick a race as well to play as. So you've got orcs, humans, dwarves, and you've got barbarians, elves, and they've all got very different gameplay. So your combination of spellbooks and the gameplay, the spellbooks will give you a very distinct build. It's also got that issue that Civilization 3 has, where you're kind of wanting to build a city everywhere. So on every square, every possible part of the land will be covered with cities by the end of the game if you're playing it right. Although obviously there's spacing between the cities. But so if you like city management, then it's a cool game. The problem is the city management in the base game's not that fun because you're kind of building the same stuff in every city. This is why Eodor's loads better than this. Even though I love Master of Magic, I think Eodor's a better game. It's a better design game. But Master of Magic is a classic for a reason. The only reason I'm putting it in top A tier rather than S tier, where it some people would argue it belongs, is because there's enough jank in the game's design, things like certain spells that are really broken, that the AI just can't play the game very well. The modder Cerevi really did his best to fix this game up with, and those mods have been taken on by Slytherin, I think, who now own the franchise. And they did he's done a really good job of polishing this up. So it's still very playable, but it plays more like a sandbox game because the AI is not that aggressive in Master of Magic base game. Unlike Caster of Magic, which is Cerevi's mod, I'm putting in Caster of Magic for Windows here, which is a separate kind of paid mod, but it's not a mod. This is a rebuild of Master of Magic in Windows because the original game's still a DOS game. Oh yeah, by the way, this is a DOS game, so if you don't like old user interfaces and old games, you might struggle with Master of Magic. But, just get over it, man, because this is a beautiful game. But Caster of Magic for Windows, this is an S-tier game, guys. This is an S-tier game. Cerevi, the modder, really understands how Master of Magic works, and he went in, changed some of the spells, changed some of the units, and he optimized the game so that the AI can play the game well, and then he rewrote the AI, I think. And so the game AI in Caster of Magic is bloody brutal. It will use all of the cheesy, not cheesy, it will use all of the brutally optimally strong tactics, like the 11-book strategies that players came up with when they were playing Master of Magic for 20 years. The AI will use those against you. So unless you're ready for wraithform werewolves coming at you or flying invisible warships, like you take a warship that flies in the that sails in the ocean, but you cast flying on it, so now it can fly across the land, and you can't attack it unless you're able to attack flying units. And then you make it invisible, so you can't hit it either. How do you deal with that? Well, that's up to you to figure out, and you better figure it out fast because the AI is going to do it to you, and it will do it to you as early as it can. So Caster of Magic is one of these games where people who loved Master of Magic, some of them don't like it because it's just too hard, and it's changed the game in enough ways that it doesn't feel quite familiar to them. But I tell you, man, Caster of Magic for Windows is a bloody great game. It's S tier. I think, even in years to come, we might consider it a masterpiece. Muha's remake of Master of Magic, though, is a different story. This is a D tier game, sorry. I think some people like this one. The problem is the game AI is not very good. So they moved, for some reason, because every modern game has to be hexes now instead of tiles, which is weird to me. Maybe it's just people expect it or something. It doesn't always make better gameplay. And I think that might have been the core of why the game AI in Master of Magic now does not play the game very well in Muha's version. I'm going to put this up to C, actually, because I think really they did a beautiful job of the aesthetics. The graphics are great. The music's great. Muha know how to do graphics. They have got really good artists, man. And the user interface is pretty nice too. It's definitely a damn sight better than the one in Master of Magic. Although it's not as thematically nice. Like Master of Magic's UI is kind of hard to use, but actually it looks great, for the time. Where Muha really jumped the shark, though, with Master of Magic was the DLCs that they added. I don't know. I'm just not feeling the female bearded dwarf and the weird faction that she had, and the steampunk thing just did not fit it just didn't fit. I really didn't like it. I refused to buy the DLC that they added with the lolly girl on the riding on the back of a pig. Like, what the hell was that? It's just stupid, and I really like Muha. I interviewed I forget her name now. the lovely lady from Muha Games, whose name escapes me now, but she's absolutely lovely. She's very clever as well. But I just didn't like what they did with Master of Magic, and they broke the game AI, and I don't think that any of the additions they made the game better. So, but their hands were tied, and like they really were put between a rock and a hard place. Slytherin wanted a game that would appeal to classic Master of Magic fans and to modern games fans, and you can't. Those two things do not mix. So, how they were thrown an impossible mission, in my opinion. So I think it was a good effort, but it failed. So if you really cannot play if you really cannot deal with the user interface and the old graphics of Master of Magic, then go and play Master of Magic, Muha version. It's not a bad game, but when the original exists and Caster of Magic as well, if I want to play base game Master of Magic, I'll play Master of Magic, the original. And if I really want to play, a difficult game, or if I want to play, a more tight version of Master of Magic, I'll drop the difficulty on Caster of Magic and just play that, because that's just a masterful games design. But Muha, they made a good effort. I just don't like the DLC. I really wish they'd not done that. It spoiled it for me. Okay. Now we come to one of the best games of all time, in my opinion. It's not just one of the best strategy games of all time. It's one of the best games of all time. Master of Orion is a masterpiece, I think, but it's got some exploits in it and stuff that make it so that it's, you can kind of cheese it a little bit, but still, it's so hard to break the gameplay of Master of Orion. That if you remove if you don't play with exploits, and you are disciplined about not using exploits with Master of Orion, it's a masterpiece. It is one of the tightest games design ever made. There is no extraneous feature in Master of Orion. The randomized tech tree means every game is different, and you are forced into diplomacy with your other players, or you're forced to go to war with them to steal technology. Or you have to use espionage to steal it, and espionage is dangerous, because if you get caught, the AI will think worse of you. The victory condition, there's kind of two, but technically it's just one. You have to win the Galactic Council vote and own 66%, win the vote of 66% of the galaxy to win the game. You can also do that by just bombarding the people who won't vote for you and just killing them. So that's another way. So this because you've got to keep on top of the council vote. If you don't keep your relations in the galaxy high enough, you can lose the game just by being voted out. And the only way you can win if you are hated is by rapidly taking lots of territory in order to get those votes, because people will vote for you if they're under your dominion. The colony management is absolutely genius. You don't have this building system that they added in Master of Orion 2 that made Master of Orion 2 suck. Instead, you've just got these colony sliders. Other games have done this, Interstellar Space Genesis has a mixture of the sliders with some buildings. It's the best of both worlds, and it's really good. But Master of Orion is just really elegant. The last time I recorded this yesterday, I didn't tell you this, by the way, but this is the second time I've recorded this. The reason why I had to re-record it was because I put music in the recording and it was too loud, and I knew I'd get complaints. But I originally put this at top of S tier, but I think I'm actually going to put this as a masterpiece anyway. Masterpieces need to not be flawed, I think. Although I don't know. I think if there are flaws in the game that come through player exploits, I don't really see that as a big flaw necessarily. That's just hindsight and the fact that games design wasn't what it was in 1992. But this is the best. It's one of the best 4X games ever made. There's only Remnants of the I'm going to put Remnants of the Precursors in now. Remnants of the Precursors is Ray Fowler's very tasteful remake of Master of Orion, and it's a masterpiece because he's taken all the exploits of the game and removed them. He's changed some game mechanics a little bit, and then he's added loads more sandbox features if you want them. But this tasteful, redesign of Master of Orion is so faithful to the original game that you might, I would advise you don't play Mu 1 now. I'd just go straight for Remnants of the Precursors. For a start, this is a free game. You don't even have to pay for it. Ray Fowler, you can just download it from itch.io, where Ray Fowler's put it up for free. Ray's a friend of mine, by the way, so yeah, again, maybe a little conflict of interest because he's a buddy of mine, but this is such a good game. There's AI mods for it now. There's a Zilmi mod if you really want to be crushed, so you've got to be super optimal to play it. Or if you're like me and you just like playing against the base game AI, which is very good now. It was always pretty good in Master of Orion, but it's really good now in Remnants of the Precursors. This is such a great game, man. Like, if you claim to be a 4X fan and you have not played Master of Orion, Master of Magic, or the Civ 4 or something, these are the cornerstones of the genre, these three games, and you really need to play them. They are the benchmark by which all the other games are set. And isn't it interesting? This game was 92, I think, or 93. Master of Magic was like 94, I think. And Civ, Civ 1 was like 90 something. Let's say Civ 2. Civ 2 was like 95. Those games are so good, and yet they've rarely been beaten in all that time. They are that good. We've just regressed. Okay, Master of Orion 2. I don't like this game as much as Master of Orion 1, but it is an A-tier game, there's no doubt about it. Mid-A tier. I think what ruins this game for me is the reduced number of ships in combat is a real immersion-breaking thing for me. Although the combat is, pretty good, I still think Master of Orion's better. I think it's just more elegant. I do not like the colony design. The colony management they took straight out of Master of Magic, and it's not as good. Various mods might make Master of Orion 2 better here, but I think that Master of Orion 2 is a beautifully presented game. It's gorgeous graphics, it's great music. The original Master of Orion was beautifully done, by the way, for the era. The map graphics aren't great, but the diplomacy screens are really lovely, and just the way it's presented overall was really nice. But Master of Orion 2 just really amped it up. Ray Fowler's got a theory that the reason why Master of Orion 2 is considered to be better by a lot of people is not so much because of the design, but because it was the last one released and it was the one they played for the longest, so they became more familiar with it. And the design flaws in the game kind of, it's one of those things where you just kind of get Stockholm syndrome with it, because I don't think the colony management is fun in Master of Orion 2. I think it's a chore, whereas in Master of Orion 1 it's easy. But it's an undeniably good game. This, if I got stuck on a desert island and someone said, "Hey, you've only got Master of Orion 2 to play for a month," I'd be like, "Okay, I'm quite happy. I'll do some push-ups. I'll probably try to break a few coconuts on my skull to see if I can, finally get that, headbutt perfected by headbutting coconuts, and then I'd play Master of Orion 2, sat in my coconut tree with my laptop, and I'd have the best time because it's a great game." Master of Orion 3 I didn't play. It's actually quite controversial. It came out with a very unfortunate circumstance where, it was like a Gamergate situation where we had this sort of journalistic integrity problem. The game was, got really good reviews by people who'd been paid to give good reviews, basically. So kind of like Gamergate way before Gamergate happened. But so it soured the water. There's an interesting story with this in Galciv 1 on Windows, by the way. So when Stardock realised that Master of Orion 3 was releasing on the same day as Galactic Civilizations, they reached out to one another, and this was owned by Atari, I think, at the time. And they reached out to one another and said, "Hey, should we try to pace our game releases so that we don't ruin each other's sales?" Yeah, that's a great idea. Also, how's about so Brad and Stardock put in a leaflet advertising Master of Orion 3 in the instruction book of Galciv 1, and vice versa. Atari put in a leaflet for Galciv 1 in the instruction book of Master of Orion, or in the box for Master of Orion 3. That worked out really well, because when Master of Orion 3 came out and it wasn't Master of Orion 2, even though it's kind of a decent-ish game, it's very, very different, right? And it was so different that people were super disappointed. So what did they do? They went and bought Galciv 1. they all went and was, okay, well, this game sucks, I'm going to go and buy Gal Civ 1. And that was really good for Stardog. So that's an interesting story for you. I haven't played this very much myself, but I've got friends who really like this game. They say it's better than people say. And I think it's got mods and stuff. So this might be a great game if you really like it. I think it's a little bit like Distant Worlds. It's more automation based, bit hands off. Okay, Millennia. I played this for about 6 hours. I liked it, actually. I gave this a positive review. I think it's a good game, but I just didn't really play it quite enough to get a full bead on how great it is. It's a little bit like, it came out around the same kind of time as Ara. It's another historical 4X. It's a bit like Civ, but it has some really good ideas. And I'll be honest with you, I can't really remember what they are. I think it had the epoch system a little bit like Humankind, but it was done better, I think, for my liking. So that's worth checking out if you like historical 4X. Honestly, though, I'd just pass it and go straight and play Imperium's Greek Wars or Old World. Oh, here we go. Here's Old World. So I've got a bit of a controversial view on this game. Again, Mohawk have got kind of an affiliation with Stardock somehow, I think, yeah. So just, yeah, be aware that there's that conflict of interest. I actually like Old World. I don't love it, though. But I'm so if it's in terms of how much I like this game, I'd put this in B tier. But I cannot argue with some of the game design choices in this game that make it really good. So it's a historical 4X, just like Imperium's Greek Wars, which is the better game in my opinion. But it's constrained to the ancient era. The good thing about this game is it's got this order-based system. So when you're moving your military units and other actions in the game, you only have a certain amount that you can do per turn. So this is a wonderful commitment mechanic, which makes it so that your decisions are super meaningful. And it means that every turn you don't get this kind of 4X game bloat where turns get out of control. The turn length and the number of units you have to manage become out of control towards the end of the game, because this is limited by the amount of orders that you can give to your troops. It's got a one unit per tile combat system like Civ 5, but I think the combat's a lot better than Civ 5. And so yeah, the combat's really good in it. The city management's really good in it. The one thing that I do not like about this game, though, is the event system. Every turn or every couple of turns, you have to do a load of reading. And, like, I'm not averse to reading, man. Like in Dominions, for example, there's loads of text. But I do that because it's pleasurable, because the guys who made this this is masterful writing. This is like if there was a Greek, if Homer wrote a book, back in 2000 BC, 600 BC or whenever it was he was writing, and it was called Dominion 6, the history of, it wouldn't be much better, it wouldn't be much worse than the Odyssey or the Iliad. This is how good this is. It's so deep. I don't like the event. I'm not saying that this is not well written, because it is well written. Mohawk are really good games designers, and Soren Johnson is a S-tier games designer, man. The problem is, I just find the events annoying, and it stops me playing the game, man. And people are like, well, you can reduce the frequency or you can turn them off, but the game's built around the events, and so doing so, you're missing half the game, right? But it's just half the game's bad for me. So but I do need to play it more. Like, I was on the beta test of this, the internal beta test before it was released, and I gave the feedback. I didn't like the events, and I think there's other players, like I think Sula, who's a Master of Orion guy, he was in that beta test. He plays Civ as well. He was in the beta test, and he also didn't like Old World much. I think he's changed his tune on it recently, actually, but I initially felt the same way as him. I found that the events were really, really, really disruptive and annoying. So Old World is one of those games I think is lauded right now as one of the best 4X games on the market. Soren Johnson and Mohawk are masterful games designers, there's no doubt about it, and it's a super polished game. It's really good. I just personally don't get on with it because of the events, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't give it its credit, for where it's due. I just think personally, I like Gal Civ more, and Old World's probably a better game than Gal Civ, but I just don't like it as much. So, this is a little bit of my personal opinion coming in, guys. Some people would say Old World's an S-tier game. I don't think it is. I think the events ruin it. Pandora First Contact. This was the first game from Proxy, the one that came before Gladius Relics of War. It's a bit more of a classic 4X game because it's got diplomacy and stuff in it. I haven't really played this, but this is notable for having a Zilmi AI or Isle AI in it. And so it's, if you download that mod, it's really, really good. I can't really comment on the game because I haven't played it enough, to be honest. But if you have, let me know. This was the precursor to the excellent Gladius, Warhammer 40k Gladius Relics of War. Pax Nova, I did play. I liked this more than I gave it credit for. I think it's a very generic space, kind of terrestrial 4X game that allows you to colonize other planets too. I think I'm going to put this low C tier. I think it's a decent game, but it's just a little bit generic. I don't have much more to say about it. It plays a little bit like Sid Meier's Civilization Beyond Earth, but it's just no way as good as that game. So yeah, I'll put it down in sort of low C tier. Planar Conquest is a Master of Magic rehash that came out really early on. I never played it that much because I just didn't really see the point. Why not just play Master of Magic? It's that close, but apparently it is different. But I don't know. You guys are going to have to tell me what that one's like. Pegasus Expedition, I did not like this game much, but it felt like it's not really a 4X. It's kind of like a classic old school 90s PC strategy game set in space. It's pretty interesting. It's got some interesting mechanics. This was the game. I got this game given to me to review, to kind of to promote. And this is where I realized I didn't really like promoting other people's games anymore, because I didn't like it, but I felt forced to, be positive about it, and I just couldn't be. So after that, I realized, I'm not really an influencer, outside of my work at Stardock. I'm more of a critic. And so, yeah, I bounced off this. I think some people really like it, but again, you guys are going to have to tell me what you think of that. So next up, we've got Space Empires 4. This was a game that I originally did not like. I had it in like C or D tier, and then I played it more, and it went up kind of here, and then I played it more, and now it's like up here somewhere. I think Space Empires 4 is a bloody amazing game. It is a turn-based space 4X that has, it looks a little bit like, I guess a little bit like Master of Orion 2 or maybe Gal Civ 1 a little bit. It's, at least on the planetary map, it's a tile-based thing. Sorry, on the galaxy map, it's a tile-based thing, but it's split into sectors as well. So it's got a really big map. And then it's also got a very, very detailed ship designer and loads of technologies, a very, very detailed civilization designer as well. It's just, this is like what happens if you try to make a Master of Orion style game, but throw in loads more detail and still keep it quite tight. I used to think the AI on this game wasn't very good, but I was wrong. Actually, yeah, it's got, the AI is not perfect, but it's actually pretty good. It's as good as any other 4X game, pretty much. It's just a great game, this is. I think the appeal of Space Empires 4 is if you like games where you've got phenomenal control over things like ship design, over, colony management, and the way that you interact with other civilizations, because it's got very detailed diplomacy and that kind of thing, then you're going to love this game. It's very old, though. You need to play it in a low resolution on your monitor because, it's just going to be hard to see. It doesn't have resolution scaling. So aside from issues with, getting it to run in a satisfactory way on your computer, really, this game hasn't got a lot wrong with it. I think the game AI, when it's playing the turn-based tactical combat battles, isn't great. It's quite easy to cheese, apparently. So most people recommend that you play it on as like an auto battler. And that way, it works really well. You can give your, the AI commanders commanding your fleets in auto battle, detailed commands on how to perform. And there's a lot of depth in there. So what, people do in order to kind of fix a problem actually turns into really, really detailed gameplay. So this is a good game. I think that Space Empires 4 is a A-tier game. I don't know if it's S-tier. I think, what would be its flaws? I guess it's just, it has got that issue with the game AI on, the tactical combat. And you do need to kind of know how to set it up. Excuse me. And you do need to kind of know how to set it up in order for the game to really play at its best. But yeah, this is a very, very detailed Space 4X game. If you don't mind the old aesthetic, the older gameplay, this is a great game. Space Empires 5, I've not played yet, so I can't comment on that. Some people prefer this one. I think it's very similar to Space Empires 4, but it's got real-time combat or something. I forget now. I've not actually played this one yet, so you'll have to tell me what you think about that one. My understanding is that some people like 4 better, some people like 5 better. Shadows of Forbidden Gods. This game is not really a 4X. It's more like an agent placement board game style game, but it's the focus of what the player does is kind of similar to a 4X game, I would say, in that you're very much focused on expanding your control across a game map, and you've got resources to exploit, and you've got agents or armies to control. It's mostly done with agents in this game, I think. Been a while since I played this one. I believe this was like the second or third game in the same kind of series by the developer, and he's kind of gone for the Dominion style of game where he's rather than releasing updates to the same game and DLCs and stuff, he just remakes the same game or a similar game. But I think this is a good game. The last time I played it, it was still unfinished. I don't know if it's a finished game yet, actually. I should have checked before I came on. Anyway, I think Shadow of the Forbidden Gods is an entertaining game. If you like the idea of being an evil god that's just awoken, and you start cults across the world, and your cultists interact in different ways with the various leaders of other factions, getting them to go to war with one another, causing strife, causing plagues to happen, then you're going to love this game because it's really, really cool in that respect. You get to play the bad guy, and as the bad guy, you're going to do some terrible, terrible things. I think Shadows of the Forbidden Gods is probably somewhere around B tier. It was just unpolished, and I think... yeah, I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm not quite sure where to put this game. It's been a while since I played. Really, I probably should put it in here. I haven't played enough, but I put about 20 hours into this one before, maybe 30 hours. So I think I'd say it's it's a good game. So B tier. All right, Solium Infernum. The original Solium Infernum is, I think, A tier game. Is it a masterpiece? No. I think it's up there, though, with Armageddon Empires for being an absolutely brilliant game. This is the same developer as Armageddon Empires, Vic Davis, Cryptic Comet. This is the original version. You are an aspirant. You're a demon in hell, or kind of a demon lord in hell, and the throne of hell is up for grabs, and you and other demon lords are trying to gain control over hell, essentially, to take the throne. You can do this territorially. The game is played out on a hex map, but it's not really a military game. There is combat in it, and you will raise armies depending on your playstyle, but you can also win. You can play and win the game really with very little in the way of military engagement. You can you basically interact with other players in diplomacy. You can insult them, and the way that they kind of react to the insults will give you certain resources that you can spend on stuff. So you can kind of like put the other players out of the game by kind of cornering them, by you realize that they are not particularly strong in a certain area, so you'll call them out. You'll say, okay, I'm going to send my best agent to duel your best agent, and if you lose, you're going to give me this, or I'm going to insult you, and if the way that you react to my insult is going to look good or bad for you depending on other game circumstances. And so it's a very, very tactical diplomacy based game. It really shines in multiplayer, but it's quite playable in single player too. Just like Armageddon Empires, the game AI in this game is surprisingly good. This game was made in the late 2000s. I want to say Solium Infernum was about 2010 to 2011, something like that. I think Armageddon Empires came out in 2007 or 2008. Again, it's made in Adobe. It's made in Adobe Director, I think. Is that right? Yeah, I think it's Adobe Director. So it's just got this kind of old interface, but the graphics are beautiful. The artists that Vic Davis had working on these games were top tier, and so the art in this game is beautiful. It really feels like Dante's Inferno. and the descriptions of the units and the characters in it are all just really thematic, very much like Dominions. It just really draws you into the game without making forcing you to read stuff. It's a superb game. This is superb. Then we've got the remake, the modern remake. Okay, so the reason why this was remade was because Vic Davis stopped making games, and well, this is not S tier, sorry. So Vic Davis stopped making games, and he re-released Armageddon Empires on Steam, but this game can't be released on Steam for some reason. You can't buy these games on his website anymore because Adobe Flash doesn't work, and the store that sold them was a Flash store. So basically, you can't buy. I've still got the original copy on my original copies of Armageddon Empires and Solium Infernum, and some of his other games too. He did other games too, like board game based games mostly. So the Occult Chronicles is really good. There's another one as well. I think it's a Gunslinger. Hang on, is it the Gunslinger Chronicles and the Occult something else? Anyway, one's like a board game where you're in a sort of mansion and it's a Lovecraftian theme. And then the other ones, you're playing gunslingers in a sort of Wild West place. But anyway, they're all very good games. He's a great games designer. The problem with Solium Infernum, but owned by Gravity, this is a remake. They made this because you can't get Solium Infernum, basically. But the problem is, God, it looks awful. And the game AI is not great. I don't like other people will be able to tell you better whether they think the original game AI is better or worse than the new one. I think the last time I looked, people were on the fence. Like, people who still play the original, some of them think that the new game is good, but the AI is kind of bad. Others thought that the AI was better in this one, but there are some minor rule changes between the two, and I think that this game may have the better rule set. I honestly, I don't know Solium Infernum deep enough to really be able to critique whether this game has the better mechanics or not. I feel like they dumbed it down in some ways, actually. But in other ways, some of the veterans said that actually some of the simplifications they made actually makes it play better. So your mileage may vary. Why I put this down in like D tier is because I cannot stand the aesthetic. It looks like, and I've said this before, so I apologise if I'm recycling my own jokes, but it looks like Wallace and Gromit in hell. It looks like an Aardman Animations thing. The character and monster design in it are just, at best they're okay, at worst they're absolutely atrocious. It's got this kind of awful 3D graphic. I don't know why games have to all be 3D now. As soon as games turn 3D, by the way, they start getting crap. Have you noticed how like most of the games up here that are good are not 3D games? Have you noticed that? Most games on here are not 3D games. But anyway, the graphics are absolute. I mean, the user interface isn't too bad, and the graphics on the maps of hell aren't too bad. And some of them, the graphics and the depictions of some of the in-game units and the characters in the game, that like the generals and that sort of thing aren't too bad. But God, the main characters are absolutely awful. It's so bad I can't play it because it's just so immersion breaking. Playing with, Shaun there's a character that looks like Shaun the Sheep. It's supposed to be a Baron of Hell. Do you know what I mean? Like, this does it perfectly. This is so much better. This remake should not exist. And honestly, the only reason why you would ever play this version over this one, in my opinion, is if you really, don't like acquiring games in a way. If you insist on buying everything, then yeah, fair enough. Go and buy Solium Infernum. That's the official version now, but it looks horrible. And I'm not usually a person who cares much about graphics. Hell, look, I play Shadow Empire and Master of Magic and stuff. What will rub me up the wrong way though is if graphics are bad. There's a difference between old or basic graphics and just aesthetically awful. And this has got aesthetically awful presentation. It's just garbage. I hate it. Shadow Empire. Where do you think this is going? Well, it's a masterpiece. And I think that it's been out long enough now that we can call it a masterpiece. Just about. It's about 6 years old, is it? Yeah, 7 years old. It's been in development for a decade. So it's a fantastic game. This is okay. Again, I've done a bit of work for Vic. My name's on the credits of the game because I did some very minor sound effects editing work, adding some some radio static effect to the female voices in the game. That's basically what I did, and it wasn't hard work, but I just did it for fun. And Vic very kindly put me on the credits, and also I did some editing for the manual too. So that's the extent of the work that I've done on Shadow Empire. But behind the scenes, I'm good friends with the developer Vic Rikers, and we talk a lot, and we talk about games design a lot. And him and me align on very many issues. We differ on other things as well. So he's always very entertaining to talk to. But so yeah, a little bit of a conflict of interest there. However, I think that this qualifies as a masterpiece. But Battle Mode, the user interface is bad. No, it isn't. The user interface is absolutely fine. Well, okay, there's a few little gripes with the user interface where there's some sort of redundant features and two ways of doing things sometimes, but that's partly a layover from the fact that Vic uses this kind of reports-based system so that everything is laid out as a report that comes into your desk. And so you really feel immersed as a ruler of this post-apocalyptic empire. Just to explain what the game is for those of you who haven't played it, I built my channel on 3 games really. One was Remnants of the Precursors, one was Shadow Empire, and I'd say the other one is Dominions. Well, 4 games: Dominions and Conquest of Elysium. So Shadow Empire is a post-apocalyptic. Shadow Empire is a post-apocalyptic 4X game. It is a terrestrial 4X game, but it's set in the far future after the collapse of a ruined galaxy-spanning empire where logistics chains and resources all broke down and the empire all starved. And so you pick a planet. So what you do is you'll procedurally generate a planet, and then you will start with a single city, usually, maybe a few if you change the options. And then you have to make ends meet, build your cities, expand outwards, find what's out on the map, bump into other warlords who are also trying to conquer the map, and you will engage in warfare with them. It's a very, very heavy war-focused 4X game, but it's not a fucking war game, okay? I need to put that out there because I hear people calling it a war game all the time, and it's not. It's nothing like a war game. The only similarity that Shadow Empire has with a war game is that it has war game-like mechanics in combat. So it's got realistic combat depiction. It uses a realistic order of battle, table of equipments. It will use... Yeah, it's got war game-like mechanics. It has logistics, it's got supply, it's got very detailed terrain modeling, and so in that respect it plays like a sort of John Tiller war game, in terms of just in the combat simulation. But war games do not have any kind of empire building. They are, you don't build cities in war games. At the very most, you might be able to produce some units, like, in a World War II game. The other thing about war games is that they always cover either a single battle or a series of battles or a war or something. If they're not covering a single battle or a single war, then they're usually not a war game. It's usually like a grand strategy game, okay? So it plays nothing like a war game. It's a 4X, but heavy war game mechanics. It's also got the best planet, it's got the best map generator in any game I've ever played. It's fascinating. The game creates planets based around real science. Vic did a lot of research on how planets are formed and what constituents. How they're formed and how the terrain develops as the planet develops. And so things like the distance out from the star that it is will determine how much wind there is and how much rain, and then that will determine how many mountains are formed, how many rivers. It will determine whether there's life on the planet or not. It's just an amazing system, and you can go really, really deep into the game's the details of how it generates the planets, and they all have gameplay effects. It is the most complex, the deepest strategy game that has been made in the last 20 years. It's on a level of... It's much more complex than Dominions in terms of number of mechanics. It's way more complex than Dominions in terms of number of rules. However, Dominions has a complexity that comes from combinatorics. So there's a huge amount of variables. Excuse me. Dominions has a huge amount of variables in place, so the combinatorics of this game become very, very large. So the decision space is massive. Shadow Empire has some of that, but it's just got more rules in general. That does not mean that the game is bad in any way, because sometimes people get a bit squiffy about games that have got a lot of rules, but these are deep systems. Every single one of the systems in Shadow Empire is very, very carefully thought out and directly touches every other system, whether it's the kind of indirect way that you do trade, or whether it's the indirect way that you can move population around between your cities. You can't do it very easily directly. And so, there are many systems that are either automated or semi-automated that the player can touch and move, but in an indirect way. That gives this game incredible subtlety. And with the sheer scope and detail of the overall game model, there's never a dull moment. I like to talk about gameplay density in games. The games at the top of this list are all games that have very, very high gameplay density. What I mean by that is, for every minute of gameplay that you're playing, you're going to get more fun per square minute per minute out of any of these top games than you will do at the bottom games. Okay, these games are never boring, and Shadow Empire is the exemplar of this. Even when you are losing, this game is incredibly fun. There is always something to be doing. Even when you get to the end of the game and you know you've won, there's always something fun to be doing. You never feel like you're just boring, the mindless raffle stomp. The end game grind, as people say about 4X. Load of rubbish. Shadow Empire destroys all these theories because it shows a 4X game that is not boring in the end game, even if you're winning. Because there's always something entertaining to be twiddling with, or to be, decisions to be made. It's got a very, very heavy RPG aspect to it, with the leader system, because everything in your empire is run by your leaders, so you need to be placing your leaders into the right places. The city management is incredibly detailed. The way that all your population has its own culture, and that can interact with the game. You need to be able to draw people, attract people into your cities. You can physically move people as colonists between cities, but they won't stay there if there's no job. So you have to create jobs for people by building assets. Sometimes you can't afford them. You've got to raise the quality of life of your cities, otherwise people will just melt away back into the wastelands and start eating roasted centipedes again because they're unhappy with your horrible tyrannical lifestyle. The recent DLC Republica made this game go from S tier up to masterpiece, and the reason being is because now we've got this really detailed political simulation as well that dramatically changes gameplay depending on how you play. So this is a fantastic game. I've talked at length about Shadow Empire, so I won't go on about it anymore. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's okay to call it a masterpiece now. It's Vic Riker's magnum opus, and I mean, he does some other great games as well, but this is the out of the ones I've played, this is the best game. And this is the best classic 4X game on this list. Maybe apart from Remnants of the Precursors, but they're both up there. And Shadow Empire, honestly, is a much more modern design. I just think that Shadow Empire this is the way that you need to be looking at games. Don't try to make 4X games. Try to make a game that ticks all the boxes that you get when you're playing a good 4X. Shadow Empire does not conform to a lot of 4X game conventions. It breaks the rules in many, many ways. Oh, by the way, one last thing. The reason why this is a truly masterpiece game is because it's, believe it or not, for the complexity of the game, it's actually quite easy to learn. You do need to read the manual eventually, but the game will ease you in because many of the systems that are extra complex to deal with on high difficulty settings are actually automated or easy to manage on lower difficulty settings. So that means that you don't always have to interact with all of the most complex stuff until you kind of need to use it. And that usually comes when you're playing on more difficult planet types or when you're playing on a higher difficulty level. If you ramp the difficulty of this game up and you put it on a hard planet type, this is the most brutally difficult 4X game I know. It's so hard. And that difficulty does not just come from, the AI having modifiers over you. It comes from the quality of the game AI, which is top notch and unparalleled. There's only really, I'd say, AI War that it has a game AI that's anywhere near close to this, but also from the difficulty of the game simulation itself. The planet itself will kill you if you don't play correctly. Wonderful, wonderful game. Okay, Sins of a Solar Empire, another Stardock published game. This is Ironclad Games. Sins Rebellion is low A tier. Sins of the Solar Empire 2 is top level A tier. I think Sins of a Solar Empire 2. I'm moving these around now. Sins 2 is a newer version of Sin's Rebellion. This is a 4X RTS hybrid game, so arguably not a 4X, but the game, you're going to be spending quite a lot of your time in kind of tactical battles, real-time tactical battles with this. So for me, that sort of edges it out of being a real 4X game, to be honest, but most people consider it at least 4X adjacent, so we're going to cover it. And they're bloody good games. Sins of the Solar Empire Rebellion was the best version of the original, and it's still a magnificent game. Sins 2, though, is just a lot better because it's gone through every single game element and just tightened it up and made it more fun. So, for example, the way that you manage your fleets and reinforce your ships has been completely redone. So, your ships exist as fleets, your fleets exist as fleets, and then you can just build ships and they automatically travel to the fleets rather than having to do it all yourself like you do in Sins Rebellion. Colony management has changed. Diplomacy is different now. Originally, Sins Rebellion had more complex diplomacy, but that's started to change in Sins 2 as the game's been further developed. And so the diplomacy system is getting a lot better now in Sins 2, I think. But the combat's way better. It's just it's easier to read, I think, than Sins Rebellion, and there's just more detail in the combat simulation. You know, there's realistic missiles, and you know you can block ships. You can block the trajectory of projectiles with other ships. If an enemy's firing like a barrage of missiles at a wounded vessel, you can fling another one in its way, and it will stop the missiles. You couldn't do that stuff in Sins Rebellion. It's just got loads of cool stuff. We've got these orbiting planet systems now, so the map will actually gradually orbit round, and so you have to be defending your worlds, and preparing in advance as the sector stars start drifting towards one another, and so you will be able to see issues with other players coming in. This is a fantastic single player game. The reason why it's not higher is because the AI is still in development. The game AI at the moment is playable, but if you really push it to its limits, you'll find problems with it, and we're always finding issues with it. Stardock, I think this is out in public, so we're working on a new AI for this game. It's called the Ares system. So it's a much more detailed game AI that partitions the decision making for this 4X and the combat systems in different ways. So it's just going to be a more detailed game AI. It's going to enable the developers to be able to kind of really sharpen how the AI works. It's also an amazing multiplayer game. This is like playing this with Ironclad when back when this game was just being developed, or it was just about to be released. I played this with Ironclad and some of the guys from Stardock, and man, I had some of the best times playing that with those guys, because it's just so fun playing with people who are good at the game. So Sins of the Solar Empire 2, absolute brilliant game. I think if the AI can be, if they can improve the AI so that it becomes as good a single player game as like Dominions or something, then this is going to be like S tier. It's an absolute magnificent game. This is still a great game as well, Rebellion. Okay, another Stardock game, Sorcerer King Rivals. This is one of the games in the Elemental series. I think Sorcerer King... This game is different to Elemental because you're playing in a phase of the Elemental story where the Sorcerer King won the game. So maybe it was the guy who won, the Elemental Reforged. He's now the king, and he's kind of he's the evil Sorcerer King. And you play as one of several kind of upstart kingdoms that is under the Sorcerer King's rule, and you have to try to break out of the Sorcerer King's rule and defeat him. But you start out weak, and he's very, very strong. And if he notices you getting strong, then he starts, he'll start calling you up on the old magic hotline and going, "I notice you've taken another city. You're getting too powerful. Don't make me squash you, bug." And so you have to kind of, it's like AI War. You have to kind of go about the campaign in a way that doesn't raise the Sorcerer King's ire too quickly. And eventually, when you're able to, you and your neighbors will either team up to defeat him, or you fight each other and become the strongest one, and then try to defeat him yourself. The problem with Sorcerer King is that really people wanted a follow-up, I think, to Fallen Enchantress. And so, because this game wasn't Fallen Enchantress, it didn't do as well as it could have done. So, I played this a few times through, and I think it's a good game, actually. I had a disagreement with one of my friends. He thinks it's crap, but I think this has some really good ideas, and I'm gonna put this in like mid-level C tier, maybe top level C tier, just for the asymmetric game setups that it's got. It had better combat as well than Fallen Enchantress. The problem was that the rest of the city management was much reduced in complexity, so it's not as fun to play as Elemental. But it wasn't a bad idea, and I want to see more stuff like this. Even if it didn't work, it was at least a good attempt to make a really unique game. Okay guys, I just had a crash, so I've just recreated this tier list as best I can. These might be in slightly different order, but I think I've got it pretty much right. And fortunately I managed to save the file using a little program called Untrunk, because otherwise that would have been another 2.5 hours I wasted doing this damn tier list. Okay, where were we? Alright, Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. I'm always like on the fence of whether this is a masterpiece or not. I think it's basically up there with some of the best games ever made. This is a civilization game, but with a science fiction theme set on the planet Alpha Centauri, or a planet in Alpha Centauri. It's got a very character-driven storyline, but the storyline is non-intrusive. That means it's revealed just through the course of reading the databanks, which is the way the technologies kind of describe, well, it's the description of what the technologies do. And so it's just really, really good. It's a superbly designed game. Brian Reynolds made this along with Civ 3, I think. And I think he did some work on Civ 4 too. And he was a philosopher, I think, as well. And you can tell because this has got a heavy philosophy vibe to it. There's no bad guys in this game. All of the different ideologies they kind of loosely represent many of the political ideologies, or many of the ideologies that are at play on the planet Earth right now. And it shows you the good and the bad sides of them, and doesn't really take any sides. And I really, really like that about the game. In terms of gameplay, it's still an excellent game. I think a lot of people would turn their nose up at the user interface now, but I don't care about that stuff. So I still think it's an absolutely excellent game. I think many would consider it a masterpiece. I would say personally that there's something about the gameplay that doesn't quite hold up for me today. But when I played this on release, because I bought this game on release, this is the first 4X game I remember really loving. I think it came after Star Wars Rebellion, and I really like that as well. But I think that this was the first one. Yeah, I think it's the second Civ game I really loved, actually. 4X that I really loved, because I think that actually Star Wars Rebellion came before that. But still, it was the first Civ-like, the first sort of historical 4X that I played in that kind of style that I really loved. This is a masterpiece of a game. I'm going to put it in masterpiece. It doesn't really have a lot of flaws. You will find flaws, right? If you play it now, you will find issues with the AI or various things. Some people love to mod this game. I don't think it needs any mods, at least with how I play it. I just think this game's an absolute banger. It still holds up today as one of the best 4X games ever made. Okay, Sword of the Stars. To my shame, I've never played this enough to really put it through its paces. The second game fell completely flat. I think people would put that in D tier somewhere, but Sword of the Stars is well loved in the community. It did some really interesting things with kind of randomized tech trees, asymmetric factions, the real-time tactical combat, but I just haven't played it enough to really have a strong opinion on it, I'm afraid. I did think that I played it enough when I did the top 4X games of all time with Rob and Drexy at Explorminate, that I was, I felt that I could see what was in the game's design that made it, such a highly ranked game. Just for my own list, though, I'm a bit reluctant to rank it because I haven't played it enough. Space Tyrant. This is a short-paced space 4X game. It's small scale, got a kind of comedy vibe to it, but it's quite well made from what I remember. I'll be honest, again, it's one that I've not played a whole lot. I didn't love this. I've sort of played it a little bit and then kind of got bored of it pretty quickly. I think that it's probably a competent game. I just remember it not being that exciting for me. So forgive me. I'm gonna rank this like mediocre. I think it's probably a decent game for that kind of game. I'm just not a big fan of short-paced 4X. I think Astro Protocol is a much better game, if I remember right. It felt like a better game anyway. Songs of Silence, I crowdfunded this and it just really wasn't what I wanted, so I don't think it's really a 4X. I don't think it should be on this list, and honestly, if I'd have known it was, I'd have taken it out. It's more of a Heroes of Might and Magic style game, and it's just nothing as good as any of those, so yeah, meh. Ozymandias, this is another short-paced 4X game, and I haven't played it enough to really have an opinion on it. Some people like it, other people don't. I think it's reasonably well regarded, but again, it's one of these coffee break 4X that you can play in about an hour. Polaris Sector I did play, though. Polaris Sector, I didn't play a lot, but I played it enough to be able to have an opinion that I liked it. I think this is doing some interesting stuff with the Space 4X Master of Orion sort of style of gameplay. It's very much... It's got some very unusual ideas, is what I would say. So if I remember right, it tries to mimic real... the time that it would take to cross these vast interstellar distances. It has some way of modeling that in the game. It also has a really good tactical, kind of real-time tactical combat system, if I remember right. And I remember enjoying that a lot. It kind of felt like Space Empires, actually, except, Space Empires 4, except turn-based, except real-time. You have fleets of ships with fighters coming out, and, you can give them orders and stuff. Yeah, I thought this was a good game for Polaris Sector. I'm going to put it in B tier. Star Ruler 2. This is a really good game as well. The problem is with Star Ruler, I didn't play the original, so I can't rank that one. Some people think that one's better. Star Ruler 2 is a very, very big, expansive game. It's very, very... What is the word? I think the developer was very enthusiastic in trying to put as many ideas into it as possible. It has got some fantastic systems, like the way that the exploit phase of the game works, where you are linking up colonies that you've captured with the resources that they produce, and you link them together with a sort of logistics chain resource system. It's like a puzzle game in that respect, and that will enable you to get the resources that you want out of each planet and allowing you to build more and more stuff up. And that's a really, really compelling gameplay. I like that stuff. I liked it in Galciv 4. I really like it in Star Ruler 2. It's a game very much... It plays a bit like Sins of a Solar Empire or Stellaris or Distant Worlds, in the sense that it is a real-time 4X game. You will be focusing on fleets. It's got a deep and complex ship designer that scales up hugely. So you'll start with smaller ships, and eventually you'll be making ships that are almost as big as planets in some cases. So it's got this endlessly scaling ship designer. The colony management is absolutely unique. Like I say, you will have some planets where you will build, kind of like improvements and buildings on, but for the most part, that's not the main part of the gameplay. And the main part of the economic gameplay is actually this linking system between the colonies. It's got a fascinating diplomatic system, which is a kind of bidding war with with these cards that you play. And so when diplomacy happens, you play these cards on opponent players, and then you'll bid on certain results. It's really weird, but it's way better than making it sound. It's fantastic. The problem is, because it's a real-time game, all of this is going on, and a detailed combat simulation too. So you're playing this kind of like Sins of a Solar Empire style, real-time strategy 4X hybrid game, and there's so much going on all at once. I think playing it to multiplayer would be quite a bit of a headache, because there's so much you've got to keep an eye on. But if you're playing it single player, you can pause it at any time. It's got amazing scale as well. You can just have enormous battles in this game. I think Star Ruler 2 is an excellent game. The only reason why I don't play it more is that I find it a little bit overwhelming. I don't think it's quite as good a game as AI War or Sins of a Solar Empire 2. Okay, Star Traders 4X. This is a 4X game set in the Star Traders universe by Treese Brothers, a developer I did not like initially, and then I have grown to love, especially since the release of the excellent Cyberknights game. God, you've got to go and play that, guys. If you liked Firaxis XCOM, or you didn't like it and wish there was a game that was like it but better, then go and play Cyberknights. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Star Traders 4X I've not played, I'm afraid. I have played Star Traders, the kind of RPG, sort of space strategy RPG game. That's really good. Treese Brothers make good games, man. They like making complex games with loads of, details. A little bit like Illwinter. They're like Illwinter Light, but they make their games with love. And I think I haven't played Star Traders 4X, I'll be honest. So please let me know what you think about this game. but I like the Star Traders universe. It's dead cool. Okay, next we've got Star Drive, another game I haven't played. The developer Zero is notorious in the 4X community for being simultaneously a bit of a genius in terms of his quality of his games development and games design, and also a real flake because he just abandons his games. Star Drive 1 was abandoned before, I mean, arguably abandoned. It's released, a full game. There are mods you can play. I think it's Black Box mod, and there's another one. They make this game really good. I've just not played it enough to comment. Star Drive 2 is a bit of a mess, apparently. It was very promising, and then the developer came in and made some changes to it, and then kind of lost interest in the project again and left it in an unfinished state. So yeah, his name's kind of mud in the community, unfortunately, which is a shame because, if people had been a little bit more, maybe a little bit less hard on him, he might have been less, more encouraged to come and finish his games. But anyway, I ain't going to comment on that. Stars, the classic from 1996, I think, 95. Very basic looking game, but it's like Master of Orion, but with more detail and more complexity, I think. This is very much aimed at multiplayer, but it's very playable in single player. I'll be honest, guys, I've not played enough of Stars. I'm still working my way through the tutorial, and it looks fantastic, but I've just not had a chance to play it yet. I think if you want a game that sort of bridges the gap between Master of Orion and maybe Aurora 4X, but no way near as that complex, by the way. But it's kind of, it's got some very, very interesting game elements that I think this would be a cool game to look at. Stars in Shadow. Stars in Shadow is the best of the Master of Orion clones, in my opinion. And sorry, calling out Master of Orion clones really unfair. But it's clearly inspired by Master of Orion 1 and 2, a bit of a mix of both. This is an S tier game because not only has it got excellent games design that understood what made Master of Orion 1 and 2 good and amalgamated those two games into something that is very playable, but it also added some cool features without bloating the game's design. It's tight as hell, and the game AI is really, really good. Stars in Shadow is an S tier game. I think the graphics and the aesthetic aren't to everybody's tastes. It's kind of got a cartoony style, but the vibe is quite dark and serious, so it's very unusual, but I really like it. I remember Rob from Explore Mate, my friend Rob Honecker, was like, oh man, this game's so blue. Everything about the game's blue. It's like got blue UI, it's got all these blue graphics. He's like, so blue. The blue didn't bother me. I think it's a beautiful looking game. It's a beautifully written game and a beautifully designed game. I prefer it to Interstellar Space Genesis. Some people, will argue with me on this. I think other people would swap these two. I think they think like Interstellar Space Genesis like some S tier game. I don't think the design on Interstellar Space Genesis is anywhere near as good as Stars in Shadow. It's not as tight. It's more sandboxy and less tight. Whereas and that doesn't really work with Master of Orion as well. I do like this game though. I just don't love it. Whereas I love Stars in Shadow. This is a fantastic game. It's another game where it's a potential desert island discs game where I'd pick that as one of my 3 because it's so replayable. Stellar Monarch 2 is a cross between a 4X and a grand strategy game. I think this is a really good game. The more I play it, the more I like it. The design philosophy behind this game is that you are the ruler and you're not really intended to be the fleet manager or the guy who owns the ship, who runs the shipyard, or you're basically doing the top level management, and it's very much like Alliance of the Sacred Sons was supposed to be, where you are dealing with rulers. You are the ruler, and people will come to you every few turns, every 4 or 5 turns. All your subjects, like planetary governors, or the leaders of your fleets, or your advisors, or the nobles of the houses, because I think the DLC to Stellar Monarch 2 has these noble houses, and that adds loads more gameplay. It's a very event-based game. And they will come to you and ask you, for help in various things, and you allocate your resources amongst them. So it's kind of like Crusader Kings in that respect. Then it's also got a Emperor of the Fading Sun style procedurally generated map, but you already own, the central part of the the galactic map, and it's managing what you've got is part of the game. But you also need to acquire more territory from the alien, the alien civilizations that are around you, some of which are more or less hostile. And it's a fascinating game. It's an indie game by, I forget the developer name now, but it's the guy's called Chris Cosmic. And he's a great games designer. He's done, I've forgotten the name of the games now, but he did a couple of Blobber style CRPGs, in this sort of wizardry style, or they seem very much based on Might and Magic, the original Might and Magic games. I can't remember the names now, but those are really good. They're really fun games. This developer knows his stuff. Stellar Monarch 1 didn't really quite... It still had a little bit too much management of things like ship fleets and, fleets of ships and, construction and stuff. You can manage that if you want in Stellar Monarch, but for the most part, it's automated. So you are free to do the top level command decisions. This is compelling gameplay. I actually want to put this in A. I think that Stellar Monarch 2 is better than Stellar Monarch 1 was. It's very similar. It's very much an iteration in the same way that the Dominions games and the Conquest of Elysium games are iterations. The gameplay's not drastically different from Stellar Monarch 1. So if you hated Stellar Monarch 1, don't bother with Stellar Monarch 2. It's more of the same, but better. I want to put this in... I'm going to put this in A tier. I've just not played it quite enough to really get my head around just how good it is. But... I think that it's got all the bones of an excellent game, and I think it's way better than average. Like, I'd rather play that than most of the games that are below it. So there you go. Stellar Sovereigns. This was another Mu 2 style, but with more complexity added game. I think it's been abandoned. I've not played it in ages. I bounced off it, but not for any reasons that I really remember. So I'm just going to put it in here, and maybe you guys can tell me more about that. My friend at Explominate really likes this game. He liked what was there, but my understanding is the developer has not finished it, or at least they stopped development on it before it was ready. But that might not be accurate information now. Star Wars Rebellion, or as I know it, Star Wars Supremacy, as it was called in the United Kingdom. This is an S tier game. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty damn good. This game is a Master of Orion style Space 4X game, but it's real-time with pause, and it uses the Star Wars license beautifully. It's set around the time of the Timothy Zahn books, so just after the end of the Return of the Jedi, there's a series called the Heir to the Empire series, where you've got the main villain is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and then you've got characters introduced like Mara Jade, who you might have heard of. Those book series were quite influential, like adding quite a lot of interesting concepts and characters to the Star Wars universe. I think it's the only stuff that came after the original trilogy that I consider to be canon. Everything that came after that was garbage. So I can't stand modern Star Wars at all, but I love the original, and this game really uses all of that lore and all the characters really, really well. It's very much a game based around the characters. Even though you'll be managing, colonies and building them up and building fleets and researching stuff, doing all the good old 4X stuff that your main vehicle for making stuff happen is actually characters. So if you want to recruit more characters, you'll send them on a character on a recruiting mission. You might send Han Solo to go and destroy a shield generator around a colony so that you can invade it better. You might have Darth Vader try to kidnap Luke Skywalker as one of your victory conditions, and they will have a battle. Sometimes characters will, if they're hanging around with Luke or with Vader long enough, they'll be, oh, this guy is actually strong in the Force. It's just so good, and it's just one of the best 4X games around. I think it still holds up. It's a fantastic game. There was a guy on YouTube, and he keeps changing his name, and the last time I saw him have a YouTube channel, he was called The Crazy Psychopath or something. That dude, right, he played multiplayer Star Wars Rebellion, and he was so good at it that he would kill people within about 10-15 minutes of gameplay. He was so good. And yet he knew how to present this game to make it look really, really good. It's Yeah, go and check out his channel. I don't know if he's still around anymore, but that channel was really fun. He used to like dress up as like Star Wars characters. Like he'd dress up as the Emperor and just talk like the Emperor through the whole playthrough. I thought he was so entertaining. And then his missus would shout him like, "All right, Jim, like your tea's ready," and he'd be like, "Oh," and he'd be talking like the Emperor, and go, "Oh yeah, all right, mate, I'll be with you in 20 minutes, mate." Classic YouTube, man. Anyway, Star Wars Rebellion. This was a brilliant game. I played the hell out of this when it was released when I was a young man, if I was about 18. I thought it was so good. Okay, Stellaris, a game I have warmed to somewhat in recent years. I still don't think it's a good 4X game. Where I do think Stellaris is good though is, you know what, before I would put it down in here because I hated it. And that's not fair. I did it with Endless Legends as well. I kind of hated that. And there's no reason to hate these games. They're just not for me. I don't think they're great games design. I don't think Stellaris is getting any better. I think they're just adding more stuff to it. And honestly, the game's design's a complete mess now. It's not really a 4X game anymore. It's a grand strategy RPG civilization LARPing session. If you play it like that though, it's really fun, okay? I'm not going to deny it. I don't get very far with it anymore. I get bored of it. I think the best way for me to play Stellaris and stick to it now would be to do a YouTube series or to, do a live stream and try and get into it again. But so much has changed. In fact, Paradox changed their damn games so much, so often. Like, they changed the core gameplay to fit whatever DLC they're making. And that just makes it so that Stellaris is an unrecognizable game now from what it was when it was released. I don't think it's a great games design, I'll be honest, in terms of, like a tight game. But as a sandbox RPG, as a sandbox RPG game, like you're role-playing this civilization, you're evolving it in all these different ways. You've got this, I don't know, I think it's good, but it's just not for me. I don't like it. But I'm actually going to put Stellaris, I think it's a mediocre game that if you're the right kind of person, you really enjoy it. I think it's a good role-playing game, but I don't think it's a good 4X. So I'm going to put it at the top of C tier. And I know what will happen is people are going to look at this and they'll immediately fast forward to the end of the video. They'll go, "Oh God, look at this guy. He's an idiot. He's put Stellaris and Endless Legend in C tier because of course C tier means terrible game." No. These are all good games. This is like the top end of mediocre games, yeah? And I mean mediocre in, as the youth today would say, mid, okay? This is the top end of mid, the top end of average, the lowest end of good, okay? So these are not bad games, all right? None of these games are really bad games. There's a load of worse games than Age of Wonders 4 on the planet, I tell you. There's not that many. No, I'm only kidding. I just don't think... These games just are often games that other people will think are really good, but I just think I've got bad design or I don't like them. I think Age of Wonders 4, Stellaris, Endless Legend. Endless Legend is the best design game of all these, actually. It's got better design. It's more consistent in its design principle than any of these games. These Stellaris and Age of Wonders 4 and, some of the others, they've got design problems that mean that they work against one another. Like Age of Wonders 4 wants to be this, it wants to be a Stellaris-like LARPing role-playing game, but it also has this really kind of intense tactical combat system that would normally put off the sort of players who would like that kind of aesthetic sandbox role-playing experience. So they've had to instead dumb down the tactical combat to make it fit those casual players, so it's no longer fit either for the casual players or for the veterans who used to like the tactical combat. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of a mess, a mushy mess. I think Stellaris has actually got probably better design than Age of Wonders 4. And yeah, it's a bad 4X game. The AIs can't play the game, really. Never has been able to. The warfare system is very, very weak, which is one of the reasons why I don't much like it. Where I do get a lot of pleasure out of Stellaris, on the times that I can be bothered to play it, is, just kind of seeing what you can do with your civilization. Like, oh, we started out as these kind of sentient plants and now we've turned them into a kind of mechanized soulless cyborgs. I love stuff like that. That's really dark and cool. And Stellaris does dark and cool pretty well. So yeah, it's unfeasibly popular, just like Endless Legend and Age of Wonders 4. I just don't like it that much. But I know it's going to happen every single time. I'll get a comment from someone who didn't watch the video, who just fast forwarded to the end, and they'll go, you don't like Stellaris, you must be an idiot. Sword of Aragon is a 1990, I think, fantasy 4X game. It's very simple, but it's also got a games design of its time that is compelling if you can stomach old games. I think it's a solid B tier game. I haven't I don't think I've even finished a campaign, but I played it enough to get my head around, and I saw what it was trying to do. It's it's an old style of game, but it's quite good, and that simplicity enables it to be played quite quickly. And it's got really, really good games design. So for its age, I think it's really good. I'm going to put it somewhere in mid B tier. Okay. Here's another one that is going to upset some people, and it's going to be a bit jarring, especially if you know me and you understand the kind of games I like. You would have thought that I would love Terra Invicta, but I don't. I really don't like this game. And I'm not surprised, really, because it's made by the developers of the Firaxis Long War mod. So XCOM, the Firaxis version of XCOM, which I don't like that much now. They're okay, but they're not good games. They're not like the originals. They are no way as good as UFO that it was based on. But those guys then went and made their own game. This is Hooded Horse. It is a grand strategy game. I mean, it's not really a 4X. So we could spare it by just throwing it off the list, to be honest. But it kind of does try to be a 4X at the end. So you start on planet Earth. Planet Earth is fractured. There's aliens invading slowly. And so you are trying to use it's an agent placement game, very much like Shadows of Forbidden Gods. This is the closest gameplay I can think to this is Shadows of Forbidden Gods, as far as I've got with it. So what you have to do is you use your agents to try to manipulate events on planet Earth in order to be able to set the stage for you to then be able to build a spacefaring fleet enough to be able to fight off this alien invasion. At which point the game transitions from being mostly based on Earth into being a Space 4X game, something like Distant Worlds. And it's got realistic physics and stuff, so apparently it's very cool in that respect. Although I've been reliably informed by people who know what they're talking about that actually the game falls to bits in the 4X bit and is not very fun. And I cannot get past that first part on Earth. It's kind of like a real-time game, but it's hard to tell whether it's real-time or turn-based, to be honest. I think it's real-time with pause, but it kind of it's split into segments. I don't know. It's been a while since I played it. Anyway, this game has got a problem that is so bad that I actually call the problem the Terra Invicta problem now. So that problem is, do you remember me talking about gameplay density? In your games, you want to be getting the most fun per minute from a game that you can possibly have. So there are games that are as complex, because this is quite a complex game. It's where is it? Terra Invicta is quite a complex game, but it's surface level complexity. No, it's not actually. I don't feel like it's that deep. Now, other people might, argue with me about this. One of my friends from my gaming group, a guy called Kale Immortalis, who I play Dominions with and some other games with, very intelligent man, and he's really good at Dominions, even though he's humble about it. He's one of those people that if he's playing Calum in Dominions and he's your neighbor, you're like, oh, I'm going to lose this damn game now. Like, I'm just going to go off on a tangent here. I saw Kale Immortalis in a game with Lucid Tactics and Sakine and a bunch of Lucid's other friends who are like high quality players, and me and a few of my other buddies. We're on this big map. I saw Kale Immortalis get attacked by 3 people. I think it was 3 other nations. It might have been 4. And one of them was Sakine, right? Who was admittedly playing... what's that? What's the undersea nation that's quite... It's like the undersea Pangaea. Anyway, he was playing... he was playing undersea Pangaea. So it wasn't the strongest nation in the world. So that wasn't like, S-tier Sakine. This is like kind of B-tier Sakine. And Sakine's really good. And Kale Immortalis not only fought off 3 players, including this like, world champion level player. But he also got himself to a position where he probably was in this, maybe the second or third place to win that game, and Lucid went on to win that game because Lucid's just really good, and he just steamrolled us after Sakane got beaten back a little bit. But that's how good this guy is, right? He as Caleb, he fought off 3 people all at once, and he was still coming out on top. And so he's super clever at games, and he really stood up against me in a multiplayer game of Shadow Empire, and to the point where I was scared of fighting him because he's super strong in defense. Now I trust this guy's, I trust this guy when he talks about games design, or at least as a critic, and he really likes Terra Invicta, and he thinks I've got it all wrong about this game. So just take what I say about Terra Invicta with a grain of salt, because there's Perun as well as another big Dominions player who really likes Terra Invicta, and I've watched him play it, and I'm trying to see the fun that he's seeing in it, and I just don't get it. But anyway, I'll tell you about the Terra Invicta problem before I end this video. So the Terra Invicta problem is the opposite of gameplay density, where instead of every minute every second you're just really thoroughly enjoying the game, instead you've got this inverted version where you're having to make a lot of small moves, lots and lots of moves, like clicking loads of stuff, moving agents around just to get basic stuff happening, right? And the payoff for all that work is very, very little for hours and hours and hours on end. Now, I'm capable of playing very, very complex games with incredibly subtle game mechanics. All right, like Shadow Empire is way more complex than Terra Invicta ever was, and it's much more subtle in the gameplay. But Terra Invicta tries to have that sort of subtlety, but it seems to engineer it in a way that is just not fun to play. Okay, so I find that having to wade through 6 to 10 hours of this boring agent placement game just to get just to be able to kind of maneuver your nations into a position where they'll be strong enough to be able to support a shipyard or whatever, it's just boring. I can't stand it, and I just don't get the appeal of it. If the Space 4X game was like a Distant Worlds beta, or like a Master of Orion beta, then I might be willing to delay the gratification of the fun that long to try to get it. But apparently it's not that good. I mean, Kale likes it, and Perun likes it, I don't see a lot of other people, other people that I talked to kind of agree with me. I think even Kale said he thinks that the 4X element of the game isn't that great towards the end. So it's like he thinks that the fun of the game is in the early bit, the bit that I don't like. So I don't know. Maybe I need to give it another go now. It's out in 1.0, but I kind of feel like it's like Endless Legend, man. Endless Space. I've given Endless Space 2 3 attempts now, and it bored me 3 times, and that's my limit. Okay, pretty much. And I've tried this one 3 times now, and I'm done with it as well. I don't think it's a great game. I don't think the design's very good. I think it's got some good ideas. I like this. I like the scope of it, but I think that the developer just needs to figure out how to make it more fun, in my opinion. Okay, Thea the Awakening. This is Muha's good game. This is Muha's really good game. I'm going to put Thea in low A tier. I think this is a really, it's not perfect. What it is a kind of 4X stroke roguelite sort of game where you start out with a settlement and some, kind of like workers stroke armies. I suppose they're both the same kind of thing. You have it's like an RPG really. You have these parties. They move around the map, get into, get involved in these kind of events, and then you will fight enemies, find resources, and you'll use those resources to feed this really interesting crafting system, which will enable you to, build your civilization bigger. It's not quite a 4X. It's actually funny because Thea the Awakening, I think, won Game of the Year by Exploring it, and so did Gladius. And this was when Nate was in control, because Nate really likes both of these games, and I like Nate. I think Nate's got good taste in games, by the way. But I don't think they're quite 4X games, either of them, actually. But they're close enough that we can talk about it, right? Thea's a good game. I think this is a good game. This is replayable as well. This is a really fun game, and it's got beautiful aesthetics. This kind of Eastern European folklore that it works around. it's not a million miles away from stuff like The Witcher. And I just think that Muha made a really, really good game here. I didn't like Fear 2 though. I didn't really play it enough to really test it, but I feel like the new combat system wasn't as good, and I didn't like the art as much somehow. But those guys have got great artists. Anyway, you make up your own mind whether you think Fear 2 is good or not. But I like Fear the Awakening. I think it's a low A, high B tier. I think this is like really good game, a really, really good game. Yeah, I think I'll put it in low A tier. I've got a lot of games in A tier though. I might have to rearrange some of these, because I feel like we should have more of a bell curve here. But anyway, Warlock 2. This game is one that I'm going to say you need to play with the Renaissance mod. If you do, it's kind of up here. Really, 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 really high quality game. Warlock 2 it kind of feels a bit like Civ 5 in the sense that it's a one unit per tile fantasy 4X game. It has a Master of Magic like feel to it, where you pick a leader with spellbook choices, or kind of like some spell choices, and you will. I can't remember if you get to pick a race as well or not, like you do in Master of Magic. But this is a really replayable game with the Renaissance mod that fixed the bugs and made the AI better and added some more content in there. This went from like a C tier, like a low C tier game to like A or B. This is a really good game, man. I think that Warlock 2 is unique in the sense that combat all plays out on the strategic map, on the strategic level, like it does in Galciv. So it's kind of like Fantasy Galciv 4, maybe. Probably a tighter game than Galciv 4, even. Yeah, I think Warlock 2 with the Renaissance mod's really good. I think it's an A tier game. I had a lot of fun with this. Wizard Warfare 2. All right, so the next two games are kind of, I was talking about slop. I don't mean to be mean. So there's a lot of games that are just made with really low effort kind of like Unity assets, and they all look the same. So I would have put DR4X in there as well, except Untrusted Life went to great pains to make this look different to other, low budget indie games by, giving it this really unique vibe, this crazy sort of fourth wall breaking narrative, the CRT filter, this 80s sort of vibe. It's really weird. Whereas these games, they got good gameplay. They're just a bit soulless in terms of their presentation. I think I didn't play Wizard Warfare 2 quite enough to be able to really. It's kind of like a shorter paced 4X, I think. I'm going to put it in haven't played enough. I wish these developers would try to just not use this basic tile map asset from Unity or whatever it is. Because all these games, like Wizards and Warlords is another one. It looks very similar. Like if you, at a glance, you might not be able to tell these two games apart. However, Wizards and Warlords is quite a good game. This one was really, even though it uses a lot of store assets and stuff, and I understand that not every developer has the resources to be able to do their own stuff. With AI, by the way, now you've got no excuse. It's so easy to do it, and I don't want to hear, well, it's AI slop. If you make a good job of it, you'll never know. Okay, so I think that people I wish these developers kind of just get on it, use the new tech, or hire an artist, whatever you got to do, make it so the games look better, and just have this sort of and then build your game design and have some better aesthetics. But I did play Wizard and Warlords a lot. I think this is it's got promise. I think I think I like it better than C tier. I think it's a low B tier game. This has got like a lot of potential content like Dominions has. It's just not finished. I don't know if the developer's still working on it or not, but I had this on my list of it looks bad and it's got really low effort graphics and it's got a stupid name because it's Wizards and Warlords sounds like a cell phone game. I'm sorry. I did tell the developer this as well. It's like, if you give your game a name that sounds like a cell phone game, Bat and Ball, Wizards and Warlords, it's not gonna be that appealing. But the gameplay is pretty good. I think all it needs is to be finished. It's like, I'll put it in the same category as Deity Empires. I actually like Wizards and Warlords better than Deity Empires, even though I suspect Deity Empires might be the tighter game. But it's in that same kind of range. And Galciv 2 is way better than all of those, by the way. So I'm actually, sorry, Galciv 3. I'm going to actually put this game higher because I think Galciv 3 is a better game than these. Okay, we're nearly the end, guys. X4 Foundations. This is not a 4X. You can play it like a 4X, though. I put this in for fun, really. I like putting this in to annoy people. X4 Foundations, played as a 4X game, is probably a B tier game. Like, okay, so X4 is kind of like Elite Dangerous. It's a first-person space combat RPG kind of game where, you know, you run around, you fly around in a spaceship, you do trading, you can fly combat missions to make money, you know. So it's like it's like Elite. It's an Elite-like. But the X series is very, very old now and quite venerable. And X4 is getting better and better all the time. Egosoft, they often, again, they kind of release games in a real shoddy state, but they then polish them up. I bought this game on release, wasn't that impressed. Well, actually, I liked it, but I saw that it was very unfinished. But now this game's really pretty good, and they're giving it a better physics engine, so the flight sim's better. Anyway, 4X gameplay. You can play this just as a 4X pretty much. After the first hour or so, and you've got enough money to be able to buy your first trading ship, give it a pilot, automate it, and then you just watch the the star map and go and explore. Send your scouts out to explore, send your trade ships to make trade agreements. Eventually you'll be building your own space stations, plugging gaps in the resource economy market. It's got really compelling gameplay. I mean, yeah, high B tier. It's not a 4X, but if you like 4X style gameplay, it's in the same kind of ballpark, guys. And you know, you added to that, you can actually take the wheel and pilot, you know, your fighter ships when you're fighting these massive fleet battles. Great game. Okay, finally we've got Zephon. Zephon is the latest game from Proxy Studios. It's very heavily based on Warhammer 40k Gladius Relics of War. Zephon would be a A-tier game if it wasn't for a big problem that the game's got. So, you remember me talking about Pandora, the one I didn't play much. Pandora First Contact is basically kind of like the precursor to Zephon, really. Gladius Relics of War had no diplomacy, so it's not really a 4X game. Any enemy you come up against, you know, any neighbour is going to be a rival. You have to kill them. There's only one victory condition: destroy all your rivals, right? Zephon is like Gladius. It has the same game mechanics, essentially. It's turn-based StarCraft. You start out with a base, some scouts, you know, you explore the map, try to tame the wildlife. I forgot to say that about Gladius, by the way. It's got excellent PvE gameplay. So is Zephon. And then you move out into the world. This is a ruined Earth, by the way. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic game. It's got a very similar... it's got an almost exactly the same story as Armageddon Empires. I do think that somebody at Proxy played Armageddon Empires because the story is almost exactly the same. It's ruined Earth, basically, post-apocalyptic. You move out into the map and you explore, find enemies, exploit resources, build a few more cities, bump into your neighbours. Instead of fighting them like you do in Gladius, you can either fight them or do diplomacy with them, trade with them, you know, make alliances, all that. And then you've got these two AI factions, big ones. One is Zephon, the titular Zephon, and then you've got the other one, which is the Anchorite, I think. They're an alien faction. And those, like in Armageddon Empires, you've got this alien, you've got the cybernetic faction and the biological faction who are at war with each other. And the humans are caught in the middle of it. And so these are like, there's this kind of like storyline that plays out through the game, and the endgame crisis, which you must play with, by the way, because otherwise the game makes no bloody sense. At the end of I don't want to spoil it, but there's an endgame crisis, and you know, the two rivals will fight each other. I think that's pretty obvious. And then you know the other players have to take sides. The problem is, because of the diplomacy, every time I've won this game, or 3 out of 4 times that I've won this game, I won just by, you know, convincing other players not to attack me. And so what happens in the end game is the end game plays out and I didn't even have to lift a finger. In one of them I had to defend myself a little bit, but otherwise my you know, the game had played out. I'd manipulated the AI so that one of the factions had no support and one of them just had loads, so we just easily won. It's fundamentally broken. This game is so easy to exploit. It's not got the same unit variety that you've got in Gladius either, so that's a bit of a problem. However, I want to give Proxy Studios their due. Where Zephon is really good is in the quality of basically everything else. The game's design's a bit shoddy. But everything, well, in fact, everything about the game's design is great except that broken diplomacy that ruins the game. But everything else is amazing. The graphics are amazing. It looks so much better than Gladius. It's easier to read as well. The map's less cluttered and weird looking. So, because you can actually tell what's going on the map. Whereas in Gladius, sometimes I have to be like, is that a cliff? Is that an escarpment? Is that, what's, and I'll sometimes make bodged moves on Gladius because I can't quite tell what stuff is. Zephon, you don't really have that problem. It's so much better in that respect. The combat mechanics are improved too, I think. Even though I like Gladius, I think Zephon's also really good. It's these games are one of the only games that use deterministic combat that I actually like. Oh yeah, that's another thing I hate about Age of Wonders now, by the way. Boring deterministic combat systems. Anyway, but yeah, it has a deterministic combat system, but it's so detailed that it actually feels like, like a really, really solid combat system. Like a really, really good random-based one. I didn't even know it was deterministic for ages. That's how good it is. The music is fantastic. It's got this incredible, like, kind of electronic, it's got these like drum and bass tunes in it. It's just really damn good. It's superb music, really fantastic, and the writing is to die for. I love the aesthetic. The cutscenes are brilliant. The intro is really, really dark and really sets the tone. I just love it. I think it's just such a superb game in every respect, apart from the bloody diplomacy ruins it. So Zephon is, honestly, I think the diplomacy ruining it is such a bad problem that I'd cast it down into mediocre. But I think, because the rest of the game is so good, I'm going to put it in kind of high B tier. This would be an S tier game if it, like with Gladius, if they fixed the diplomacy. Or, because they have to put that endgame crisis into the game in order for the diplomacy to make sense. Because otherwise, why would you have a diplomacy in a game that already didn't need it? Because Gladius is almost perfect. That didn't need that diplomacy system. So they're trying to make this more of a sort of 4X sandboxy style game. But the game design isn't 4X sandbox. It's kind of turn-based StarCraft, yeah? So turn-based StarCraft doesn't really go with diplomacy, I'm afraid. It doesn't help. In fact, I in the event system and stuff as well, some of the events are really disruptive. Like I had one where I was sat, in an alliance with people, and I was starting to get bored, just hitting next turn, like, okay, well this war game's boring with no war. And then suddenly it goes, battle mode, but you didn't realise that you making a choice in an event a couple of turns ago is now going to turn you at, turn all your allies against you. So I went from having 3 allies and it being a bit boring to suddenly it being very exciting because all of my allies turned on me. And, I can deal with that kind of surprise and shock, but most players are going to bloody hate that. So it's just got it's like they know. I think Proxy know that they've made this game that is broken because of the diplomacy, but they can't roll it, they can't walk it back. So what are they going to do? Well, they've got to, use Band-Aid game design now. So they added this endgame scenario, which is very thematic. And, I like the endgame scenario if it wasn't for the fact that you could cheese it so you win every single time without even having to lift a finger. It might be different on very high difficulty settings, but I played it on hard, I think, the net one up from difficult, and from normal, and I didn't think it was difficult. And it took me ages to master Gladius, man. Like I used to lose on normal on Gladius for ages, for games and games until I figured it out. Now I can play this on like hard and above, and it will be a good challenge, but I'll win it. Zephon is just so easy because of the diplomacy. I just wish this game was fixed. I think if they instead of adding more damn DLC to this game, which they don't need yet, if they fix the base game, this would be like top S tier. If they could get the diplomacy working so the AI could play it really well, I'd like this more than Gladius. Even though I'm a Warhammer fan, I'd like this more. But for now, it's kind of like, yeah, here somewhere. All right, guys, that is it. That was 100 4X and 4X-like games and my dim-witted opinions on them. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sorry the video was so long. It didn't help that I had to record it twice, and I thought I was going to lose it again today after that crash. God damn it. Well, anyway, these are the best games ever made in the 4X genre, in my opinion. There might, honestly, like I said before, any of the S tier games and any of the Masterpiece games, they're all relatively interchangeable. These are all great games, man. Like, I don't think Star Wars Rebellion's a masterpiece, but I think it's damn good. You know, Galciv 2's is arguably a masterpiece for some people, I think. You know, Civ 4... there are certain games that I particularly like that other people don't rate so high. Like, for example, I think the game AI on Emperor of the Fading Suns really drops this down further. But I would have this as a masterpiece immediately if it had better AI. And the game is fun to play in single player, even with the AI as it is. And it's so customizable as well. I would say that, you know, Imperium's Greek Wars is another one that's been really, really, really slept on. I think that if you can handle the complex mechanics and you don't mind reading a game manual, you'll get endless fun out of this game. This is brilliant. This game is like a sleeper hit, honestly. You know, and then I was talking about Aura as well. Aura is really underrated. It just needs a bit more. I think if Aura can have just a little bit more tightening up, I think that could be a really good game. But as it is for me, I think it's probably a C tier game actually, but I like it a lot, so I'm going to put it in the bottom B tier because I personally really like that game a lot. I think it's better than Wizards and Warlords. So anyway, I need to, if I'm going to really fine tune this, I need to go through it a little bit more and, you know, just kind of organize it. I'm really sorry, guys, if you like one of these games and I've not played it. If you have done and you think that I really should play it, let me know why and give me a decent argument why in the comments below, and I might take a look at it. If you think I'm an idiot for not wanting to play Civ 6 and 7, please let me know why. And if you think that Terra Invicta is God's gift to strategy gaming and I've just got it all wrong, then, you know, let me know. I'm willing to try Terra Invicta again, and I hope that one day Terra Invicta and Endless Space 2 will be, you know, like I am with Stellaris now, where they're, you know, actually I think they're better than I originally thought they were. You know, if you think the Galactic Ruler Enlightenment has no business being a B tier game, like I'm sure some of you do, then, you know. I was also going to mix up because when I heard that people were using the, you know, the JPEG file from this, yeah, I'll just make it easy for you guys. Let's get it all on one page. There you are, look. So now, if you want to take a screenshot, can I ask you, if you do, can you please just make sure that you people know that it's battle mode, please? Because I really appreciate that this guy came to me on Discord and he said, hey, you know, everybody's been using your tier list screenshots to kind of determine what games are good or not, and the fact that he knew to come to me shows me that people were still saying, hey, this is Ben's list. So I really appreciate that, folks. Thank you so much for sticking with me for this, for the second time that you've seen me talk about most of these games, but I felt that it would be good for me to elaborate a little bit more. I like to add this masterpiece level because these really are the best games. These 7 games here are the best games in the 4X genre. And, you know, anything from like B tier upwards is a must play, in my opinion. I think you should try all of these games in B tier and above at least once. And even the mediocre games are worth trying. You may love Dune Spice Wars. You may love Endless Legend or Stellaris. You may love Age of Wonders 4. You know, you may love like Terra Invicta and all this. I just think that they've got problems. Okay. Thanks, guys. And I will catch you next time. Like and subscribe and all that YouTube stuff. And I'll catch you next time. Take care.